But as I was saying, but tonight is also a little trial and error. As you can see, we're not polished, we're not refined. So this is, I'm afraid you guys are our guinea pigs tonight on this one as well. So hopefully it'll be fun. Hopefully it'll be enjoyable. Really appreciate you guys taking the time out your evening to join this. And we've been really excited about it. You know, wow. You might have seen that I was bouncing off the walls yesterday and the day before when I did a live down by the river, and I think I'd had a little bit too much coffee at the same time. My poor wife, how she puts up with me, I don't know. Right, so we don't mind being guinea pigs. Thank you, Rachel. Really appreciate that. Abigail, do you want questions now or later? Shall we do some? Angie, do you want to talk about what you do and how it works? No, Angie's muted herself at the moment, so I don't know. I'll carry on chatting, so don't worry. I crashed and I'm back. I can't unmute. Are you back? This is awesome.
So I'm trying to watch the waiting room for people to admit, and then I've got the chat as well, and I can't, and then you're in the top corner, and I'm like, I can't multitask. You know, I'm not very good at multitasking.
So I've been put in the corner in my place, so it's all good.
So just Minty, just give me a second.
Yeah, no
I'm gonna try and find how I admit everybody, and then I can stop worrying about admitting
Abigail,
people.
I'm glad you're finding this hilarious, because I'm finding it hilarious as well. So this is brilliant.
This is why it's free.
I'm going to charge for this comedy, in all fairness. If anyone has, while we're waiting though, if anyone has got a question, if you just want to pop it up in the comments. Oh, True Spiritual?
Yeah, I'm absolutely useless with tech things, and I can't figure out how you put messages up. So rather than me keep shouting to you, I didn't like. I was a bit like, but
that's actually cool.
Ideas or help.
I'm terrible at tech myself as well, which doesn't help the situation really. I'm not sure.
I'm pressing all the buttons, and it feels like I'm going into space. I'm like, what's that for?
Oh, here you go. Abigail says, go to the chat button on... Chat button. There must be a chat button somewhere. Go to the chat button near the bottom right. Apparently you should be able to do that. Oh, and Patsy is saying click chat. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone. I'll have a go.
Thank you all so much. If anyone has got any spiritual...
I think the problem is that everything looks different on different mobile phones and laptops and iPads. Yeah. So everybody will have a slightly different view, I think. But
I'm sorry.
And I'm definitely different. So
okay. Mint, can you keep an eye on the chat, and I'll just keep an eye on the waiting room.
Yeah. Cool.
I think that'll work better.
How do I bring the cat up? How do I bring the... Oh, Angie, will you see your kitties? From Abigail.
There's one over there.
Oh, blessing.
Really excited. Yeah. Okay. Oh, there's Faye. I can see. Oh, I'm Rolly. Oh. Hello. Okay. Yeah. So this is the first time that I've ever hosted an event. I've only done Zoom chats, which has been like about 3 people at the most. So, and it's one of those things that until you do it, you don't know how to do it.
How it's going to go. Exactly. It's all trial and error. It's all trial, and there's no time limit on this, is there? I mean, at the end of the day, if we go a bit longer, we go a bit longer. It's all fun. That's the thing.
Yeah. Well,
Tonight was about having fun.
It's just a chat, and you know.
Exactly. The host has to unmute me.
Yeah. Okay.
Saying you have to unmute her. Hi, Bridget. Thank you for joining us. Has anyone got any particular questions that they would like to ask now? If that's while we're just sorting all this out. I mean, anyone got a question?
Yeah.
Who said yeah?
Oh no, sorry, I was talking to my son.
Oh no, that's okay.
I actually have, if possible. Sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
And it would be mainly for Angie. But past life regression, I'm very, very interested in it. But my thing is, when I've been to several different mediums over the years, I've asked them about this and if we have like another life, and it's a bit of a split decision where a lot of them will say, no, you only have this life, you don't come back. Whereas others say, yes, we definitely do, which I feel we do. But I just like, I've back in a past life regression session before, and I've taken a few people back, and they've all come out knowing and what they're doing, what they were doing, and different bits and pieces. But that split divide, I mean, why just do some mediums think, no, this is definitely, and they just won't have it, that there is a rebirth, and we go until time is done, and we then do go as a spirit and stay there?
Yeah, that's a great question, because well, nobody knows everything, do they? So no, I mean, this was one of the things I was going to start off with saying. So that's a really, really good point that you've brought up, is that whatever me or Minty talk about tonight, what we say tonight, we're just sharing our views and our feelings and our experiences. So I'm certainly not saying that I know it all, that everything that I believe in, or that I or that I feel is true for me is the truth, is the one truth, the only truth. So, and I think the most important thing with anything spiritual is to have that discernment. So no matter who you're in front of and what they're saying to you, you still have to take what they're saying and take it into your own truth filter, really, or bullshit filter, whatever you want to call it. You know, does it feel true for you? Does it resonate as truth for you? If it does, brilliant, then go with it. You know, if it doesn't, if it feels off, then either it's not true for you at all, it's not a truth, or it may be something that you're just not ready to acknowledge or accept or deal with at that moment. So it may be a truth that comes later down the line, but at the moment, for your own highest good, that's not a truth that you want to resonate or look into. So so that's a really good thing for me to start saying this evening is, you know, nobody really knows the truth. We can only, all of us, you know, share our own beliefs, our own ideas, and be open to being wronged, be open to other people having a better sort of knowledge than we do. So I mean, I tend to be a very analytical and logical person, which, so I know some people on my Facebook list must laugh at that because, you know, they see me as so woo-woo and out there. But really, it's like all the things that I've come to believe and know as my truth is through my own experience. So I'm a real kind of believe it when I feel it person, rather than a believe it when I see it or I believe it when I hear it. So over the years, that's really how I have come to all of my own personal conclusions, and how I work with my clients, is that these are the truths that resonate with me, and my truths change slightly as I go on and as my awareness and consciousness expands. So there is no one truth, and there is not really truth, you know, for all of our lives. Obviously, it's a bit like sort of saying that what you know at kindergarten level is what you're going to know at university level. You know, there's that growth and that progress and that expansion. So just because somebody's a medium, or just because somebody's a, you know, a guru or a spiritual teacher or whatever, it doesn't mean that they've got all the answers. It only really means that they're expressing what's true for them, and whether you resonate with it or not is then up to you. So we shouldn't ever give our power away to other people. We should, because we always know the answers inside. If we get heart-centered and find that inner truth compass, you know, some people call it gut feeling, some people call it intuition. some people have kind of goosebumps when they know the truth. Sometimes it's that kind of, you know, that real sort of rush of butterflies in your tummy, you know, that people know is truth. And so we all know, we all have our own ways of discerning the truth and knowing what's truth for us in that moment. And I think as long as you focus on being heart-centered and coming from a place of love, you can't really go wrong.
No.
Because it's being too much in the ego mind and the fear programs that we're running, the limited beliefs, you know, our society programs, cultural programs, those are the things that we need to be careful of, you know, because if it feels off inside us, then there's probably something that we need to look at, whether it's our own wounds or whether it's kind of like wounds of other people that we're picking up on. So does that answer a little bit of your question?
Does, because I just sort of follow my and yeah, I totally believe that we do have past life regression, 100%. But argue till I'm blue in the face with somebody else. Well, not argue because I wouldn't, but discuss with somebody else.
Yeah.
But it's their belief and what they feel and what they think. So I'm quite okay with that, but I just don't want them to say to me, oh, you should not be doing this because this is not right and wasting your time. No, sorry, it's
well, I think that is a big red flag. It would be a red flag in my book if somebody is saying this is definitely how you should be doing it or what you should be doing, and you know there's no discussion about it, because that tends to come from the ego. That doesn't come from a heart-centered space. So yeah, well, I mean, I think we've really got to come away from giving our power away to what other people think and feel, and just get used to more of going on the inner to what feels true to us. So, and of course there's many different layers, and everybody's on their own journey and everybody's on different stages of their journey. So what one medium might understand is totally different from another medium might understand, and it totally depends on, you know, what their own experiences are, what their upbringing has been like, what their relationships have been like. You know, everybody's got their own perception and reality sort of thing. So when the people that I follow and look up to, I always the people that I tend to follow myself is spiritual teachers. And we all look up to somebody, you know, nobody's at the top. We're all everybody's just, you know, giving a hand up to everybody else. The one thing that I always, that is my kind of filter, I think, for following people, is that they will always say, take what resonates and leave the rest. If my truth resonates for you, then please take it. And if it doesn't resonate for you, I haven't got a problem with that. So if they have got a problem with that, that would be a red flag, you know, because that's kind of like ego of like, oh, well, I'm right and I know everything kind of thing, and I'm higher than you sort of, and nobody really is. We're just, I think the school process is a good way to think about it, is that, you know, some people are learning their times table and other people are here doing their master's degree, and there's everybody else in between, and nobody is higher or lower than anybody else. We're just at a different stage of that education, of that learning. So yeah, so let me just
there's some more people I think want to come in. There's someone called Jess that wants to be admitted into this, if that's possible, please.
Let's
and it is just saying what Angie was saying as well. It's going with intention and going with your own thought process as well. It's like what resonates with you is what works for you at the end of the day. So if there's mediums out there that are saying that no, there's no past life and none of that, and that resonates with you, that's okay. That's not a problem. I mean, that's everyone's entitled to their own view and opinion as well. Me personally, I'm a firm believer of past life. Always have been. I've always had the feeling that I've been here many times before, and I think some of us have. And we tend to come back because we've normally got lessons to learn, or we've got lessons to help others learn. So it's always that giving and taking on the learning, and it's a sharing process. There's a friend of mine years ago that wrote a piece about a pupil teacher, teacher pupil, and it's all about helping each other, and it's all about you learn from others, but you can also teach others at the same time. Knowledge is there to be shared. I think it's the same with anything. Some mediums will say that you can't buy your own tarot cards. Other mediums will say you can. It's intention. It's intention at the end of the day. As long as you're doing it with the right intention, there's no right or wrong, in all fairness. It's all about your intention, what resonates for you, what works for you. And if other mediums out there, if what they're saying is going against you, in some respects, that's giving you the indication that, okay, you're entitled to your opinion, but I don't need to be in your company. And that's absolutely fine, because that's our human side as well. We are allowed to acknowledge our human side, and we're not going to gel with everybody. We're not going to get on with everybody, even though we're spiritual. There's still people out there that are muppets. Sorry, that's my personal opinion. And it's like I try to avoid the muppets. I really do. Like I said, it's my personal opinion.
But what might be a muppet to you might be a highly evolved spiritual teacher to somebody else.
Exactly. But this is because it's what resonates with me.
Yes.
Now, that's not me saying that I'm right and I know everything, because I certainly don't. I'm still struggling to tie my own shoelaces.
Doesn't man do that for you?
If you saw me earlier, caked in mud, it's hilarious. I nearly fell over. But anyway, I don't know everything, because that would just be, well, that's just, what's the word I'm looking for?
Arrogant.
Up my ass. Yeah. So I just have man shouting. That's just me being up my own ass. Exactly. And that's not helpful to anybody at the end of the day, but it's all about what resonates with you. It's what works for you, in all fairness. And I think that's with anything spiritual as well, whether you believe in past life, whether you want to use crystals, whether you should buy your own tarot cards, whether you should do this, whether you should do that. There's no rule book. It's a guideline. It's a set of guidelines at the end of the day. And it's just, like I say, if doing it with the right intention, if you're doing it with a pure, honest, open heart, you're not going to go wrong. They won't let you down at the end of the day.
I think we're kind of just about done sort of admitting people, so I'm going to
turn
that off.
Awesome.
Then you can keep an eye out. So I'm going to mute everybody, just so that because otherwise the audio keeps cutting out, Mint, when somebody else talks, or if there's
any sound.
So I'll mute everybody, and I'll.
That's cool.
Just keep an eye on the very top. If anybody comes in, you'll see it pop up there.
Okay, Mint, can you unmute yourself? You should have.
I can. Yep. There we go.
Okay, so we'll keep
sorry,
for a little bit, and then we'll open up everybody again. I think there's so many people now here that we're over more than one screen, so apologies we're not going to be able to see you all. There's lots of things going on in the chat, which is great.
There is.
We'll try and
Mandy, my beautiful wife, is doing an angel drawing for someone. It's a commission piece, so that's what she's working on this evening.
Oh, are you answering questions, Mint? Is that it?
Yeah. Sorry, I've got the chat open, and someone, Stephanie, was just asking, totally irrelevant, sorry, but so intrigued at what Mandy is drawing or painting. So Mandy's actually doing an angel piece for someone. She's on a commission piece at the moment. I believe that's what she's working on. So that's cool. Yeah, she's just confirmed. Yes. So that's cool. Sorry, Angie, do you want to go ahead?
Sorry, I was nodding at Dougie. Did somebody?
No, that's cool. It's awesome.
All right. Okay. Well, let's start properly, shall we?
We can give it a go.
Well, I'll introduce myself, and Mint, you can introduce yourself, and we'll talk. If you want to kind of like share a bit about your experience about past life,
yeah.
and then we can sort of open up to questions. So, if you want to ask a question, put it in the chat box, but just be careful, kind of like how much you're chit chatting, because we can't kind of read everything. So so if you just want to put your questions in, but just keep an eye on like how many there is, because obviously we kind of can't keep an eye on everything that scroll if it starts scrolling past too fast. Okay, so I'm Angie, and I think most of you know Minty. I know some of you know me, so thank you for joining us. So yeah, past life regression. It's an amazing story, and it's got it's an amazing subject, and it's got lots and lots of different layers to it. So we'll see how many we can kind of like dive into a bit tonight. So just a bit about my own history. I've kind of been, I suppose, lucky enough to always have natural past life recall, although I didn't realise what that actually was. So I didn't realise that I was having past life recalls for most of my life. It was just stuff that happened to me, and so I just get these strange memories, or all of a sudden these kind of like flashes of being another person or in another place. But it was usually very kind of visceral. So it was kind of, and that's how I always, for me personally, that's how I know the difference between my mind just sort of making something up and actually recalling a past life, a memory, is that there tends to be emotion attached to it as well. So just like if you were thinking back to your childhood in this life, you wouldn't just see yourself playing on the beach, for example, but you'd remember what that felt like, that memory of you playing on the beach. You'd remember what it felt like as you were doing it. So when we get past life recalls, that's a good way of identifying whether that is something that you're recalling from your past. Is that, does it have an emotion with it? So another little example, when I was in Scotland a couple of years ago, we went into this museum, and there was lots of it had a display of the Jacobean uprisings and things, and there was just this one particular musket that was on show, and when I was stood in front of it, it was just like I was transported back to you know, Culloden, to the battlefield. And I was a man, and I could hear everything. I could smell all the blood, all the gunpowder. It was so visceral, even though I was just standing there. But when I shut my eyes, it was like I was straight back on this battlefield. And so that is something that I know that I'm not making up, and it's not you know, it's not fantasy. It's not something that I'm thinking, oh, I wonder what it would have been like to be in a Jacobean Scottish battle. You know, it was there. It was so real that I know that that was a recall. So I've had that all my life, and I suppose it's only really been, though, in the last couple of years that I actually went and studied past life hypnotherapy and how to do it for other people. And it was kind of spurred on by having my own past life regression. Well, it was a life between life session, actually, which is slightly different. So you start off with the past life recall, and then you go through the death scene, and then you go up into the spirit realms, into the light realms, and then you kind of like meet with your spirit guides, sometimes your soul family, sometimes with the elders, and you can access the Akashic records. You can find out your blueprint of what you wanted to experience, what your mission is in this life. So it's like kind of pre-birth planning. You know, who did you want to become? What did you want to learn? What lessons did you want to learn? Who you wanted to be your family and why? Which country you wanted to grow up in? What cultural society you wanted to grow up in? All of that kind of thing. So I had one of those life between life hypnotherapy sessions, and it lasted about 6 hours. I think I was actually under hypnosis for about 4, so it was a really long session, but it absolutely changed my life, because I came out of that hypnosis session just knowing so much more about myself and who I was, and my history, if you like, as a soul, what I'd done before, what my main kind of energetic gifts were, as well as the sort of challenges, the things that I was wanting to learn when I came into this life. So it did really, say it changed. It didn't particularly change my life because I was already on that spiritual path anyway. But what it did, it really kind of skyrocketed me into an upward trajectory, if you like, of kind of stepping into my own power and really doing a lot of the healing that I'd struggled with other modalities to do. So it was an accelerated healing and accelerated growth. So, and then for the next sort of 12 months, I started getting this feeling that my guides wanted me to actually do it for other people. So that's why I've ended up training to do it myself as a facilitator. And I suppose going through it myself, I know how life-changing it can be. I know how helpful it can be to know our own strengths and our weaknesses. So past life really is just the starting point. It's really nice to find out some of the lives or some of the experiences that we've already had on the earth as a soul. But my personal passion is the quantum healing aspect of it. So it's more the life between lives aspect of it, which we can touch on tonight. And that's really what you had, Minty, from our session was, so we did do the kind of the normal past life regression, and then we took you right further into the light realms, didn't we? And
We did.
Yeah. So yeah. So do you want to sort of say a little bit about your experience with it, and maybe it's kind of like what did you think of sort of past lives before your session, and did you always have recalls about past life, or?
I've always been a firm believer that we have past lives. If I explain a little bit about my theory of how past lives work for me personally, I've always been the believer, or the image that I was given was that if you just take bacteria as something as simple as bacteria, and they can kind of self-split themselves into two. Now, I've always been a firm believer that when you pass and when you die, it's like your soul splits into two. So you get all the you get some of your personality from this life and your previous lives move on into a new soul, so you come back, but then you also have a soul, or part of your soul then goes to the spirit world to help other people or for you to learn lessons from that. But when it comes to past lives and stuff, so this is why I feel like you do bring past lives forward with you, because it might be lessons that you haven't learned from previous lives, and you're having to go through another life again to learn them, or to help others learn theirs as well. But from my own so that's my belief on that one. And from my own experience that I had, I mean, I'm trying to remember where we went back to. I know I was up north, and I know it was somewhere like Hull or something like that. Was it? It was Hull, wasn't it?
I think it was northeast somewhere, and it was a docks.
Yeah, it's northeast in the docks. And I know I was a little lad at the time as well, and I was sort of in this working house. I'd lost both my parents. It was me and my older brother. And then I got shown that I met my wife at the time, and it was and she was quite well to do actually. And then I ended up then we ended up getting a farm and stuff like that as well. But that was just sort of showing me what I think it was my last life, or one of my last lives was. But then we went further, didn't we? Because we went to my higher self. Mm. If I remember rightly. And that was really that was very relevant for the time, because I was questioning everything that was going on in my life at the moment. And it was like, I'd gone to my higher self. Now, when I came out of this experience, I didn't remember anything really. It wasn't until I listened to the recording afterwards, and then that sort of allowed me to know what I was saying and what had gone on. And pretty much it was like where I was because I was really in that conundrum of, when do I quit the job that I was in? When do I start working for myself? And this past life experience helped with that, because we got to speak to my higher self, and I got to speak well, you was asking the questions, weren't you, Angie? And it was like the of when am I ready to let go? When should I do this? And I kept getting like one-worded answers like soon, and is it gonna? And it was like we've got you, and it was like, and I came out of it afterwards just feeling really uplifted, knowing that I had something important. But me being me, I couldn't remember it until I listened back to it. And it's like, oh, that's what the important thing was.
But that's quite common though, Minty, because you're in such a, when you go into the life between life, the light realms, you are in a much deeper trance. So your conscious mind is very much, you know, it is like you go into a kind of a daydream state. So it's like when you're just about to fall asleep, you know. So and that's a good thing, because if your conscious mind was so present that you could remember it all, you probably weren't deep enough to allow your higher self through. Your conscious ego mind would have stopped, you know, the information coming through. So yeah, but what I found interesting about your past life was the because it was a very poor one. It was very much to do with poverty, wasn't it, and struggle.
It was,
and
yeah.
And actually one of the main lessons that came out of that viewing that past life was to accept help from others, to receive help from others, and also about poverty consciousness, because you know Mandy, who was also your wife in that other life, was, like you said, very well to do. So she was, especially in those times, I think it was about 1800s, that sort of time, you know,
background, and her family actually welcomed me. Now, this would have been quite rare around this time, because this... Oh, Angie's back. You're down in the bottom corner.
It's
okay.
Our internet connection is appalling. And
that's okay. I was just sort of talking about the actual past life that I went through. And then it was a case that the family welcomed me in, and then we ended up getting a farm. And it was sort of like we got quite a bit of land at that point, and I can't remember how I acquired the farm now, I must admit. Can you remember how I acquired the farm?
It was through your wife's money. So, but the learning was very much about accepting help and money from other people. So that was your basic learning from visiting. That's what your higher self was trying to show you.
Yeah.
Was that you were running those poverty, those poverty programs that you needed to let go of. You needed to transcend those, but also, you know, to allow Mandy to help you in this life as she did in that life, you know. So
that's the other important thing. Manda was actually my wife in that life as well. So we've had many lives together. That was quite an important thing as well. That yeah, she had to put up with me in that one. Bless her heart.
So how did that session help you with your job?
It gave me more confidence, even though I was still I was still resisting. I was still fighting against the tide, going, no, I can't quit yet, I'm not ready to. But I knew it was coming. And I had decided that it was going to be in the new year that I was going to have my notice in. But there was still that annoying little niggle at the back of my head that I can always sometimes never let go. And it's like, you got to do it. And I was talking to Mand as well. And even she was saying, look, why don't you just do it? Go for the plunge. And it was because they were literally saying to me, we've got you. Take the leap. We've got you. But you've got to let go to trust. And I'm like, no, I'm holding on to my safety blanket. It's like, sod off. I'm not leaving just yet. And then literally in the space of about less than 4 weeks. Now, bearing in mind, my higher self told me that I would leave my job soon. And when I listened back to my past life regression, I knew deep down in my heart of heart, I knew it was going to be before Christmas. I just didn't want to believe it.
That's interesting, isn't it? That your gut feeling, your inner truth was telling you one thing. Your ego mind has a different story.
It does.
And that's where our conflict is all of the time, is that our ego mind says one thing and our heart, our gut feeling, our intuition is saying another. And it's you know, trying to get those two to align and in balance, that's the magic point.
It was. And also I knew that actually January was going to come, and I knew that I was going either way. I was going to be handing my notice in my head January. But literally within the 2 to 4 weeks after my past life regression, word got worse and worse and worse. And in the end, I come home from work. We had a long weekend off together, and I'd had a massive falling out 10 minutes before I finished my shift with my manager. Come home, and I was like, I honestly thought I was going in for like a disciplinary procedure. I thought he was going down that route. And I just said to man, I said, look, this is what I feel is going to happen. And we were talking about it, and we were looking at it on a physical platform of working out finances and stuff like that, and what I was doing readings wise and stuff. And in the end, it was literally by the end of that Friday, we went to the roll rights, we were having a great chat, and I just said to Mand, I said, all right, I've got to do it. And then it was like I was still having this internal battle going, am I doing the right thing, am I not doing the right thing? And then we actually came over and saw you guys, didn't we, Angie? And I can remember talking to you about it, and it was literally like someone had just switched a light switch. Now, I'm a little bit delayed when it comes to seeing light bulb moments. And it was literally while we were having this conversation, it was just like, I'm doing it. And I knew I was going back to work on the Tuesday morning, and this was on the Sunday. And I literally, in the space that it took us to get home, as soon as I got home, wrote my resignation, still absolutely bricking it. But I literally got to the point where I was saying to my guys, I'm doing this. please make sure you can help me, sort of thing. And they were like, look, even Mand was saying, look, we got you, don't worry. And I'm still typing this out going, am I doing the right thing? You know, still questioning it. I
think it's an important point to bring up, that you will never, you know, you will always have that fear. And there's that saying, isn't there? Feel the fear and do it anyway. And
exactly.
You know, fear can be a good thing, because it can stop you from doing something silly. It can stop you from just going off on a whim. You know, so there is a process to go through. We have to get very honest, really, about, does this feel right inside, but is my mind in fear? If it feels right inside, but the mind is in fear, then you know it's probably better to go with your gut feeling. Right? And
that's exactly how it was, because my insides completely knew, but my head was going, alarm bells, don't do it, don't let go of what you know, don't let go of what you know.
And I think it's very natural to go a little bit in between, you know, so there's when we're making decisions like this, there is that kind of that little bit of time where there is this tussle and you're not quite sure, but sooner or later, if something is right, what's for you won't go by you, is one of my favourite Scottish sayings. It really is, and it really is true, because if something is meant for you, it will come to you. Even though we have free will and we can say no to it, or we could go the other way, the circumstances and situation tends to come back round again. You know, because your soul wants to experience this. So if your soul wants to experience something, it doesn't really matter what the ego mind, you know, does or doesn't do. It will keep bringing it round, because the soul wants to experience it. So
and that's the thing as well. I mean, the stupid thing is, I always knew from a child that my spiritual work has always been so important to me. It really has. And I've always been wanting to get out there and help as many people as possible, whether it's doing my readings or whichever way I do it. And even as a child, I always knew that I would end up having to dedicate my full time to it, and that I couldn't do it any other way. Excuse me. And even though I knew this from a child, and I've been growing up with this, and I've always been putting it off, and it's always been coming, like you say, keeps coming back round. And I was, funny enough, having the exact same conversation today with Mand when we were on our walk, and I turned around and said, I love how our life is now. I said, I could never have done this before, because I was never with the right person, or I was never in the right situation. To know that I've got her support is massive. to know that I'm in the right place and at the right time now is massive as well. And you know this in a gut. The moment I handed that notice in, it was like someone had literally just come along and took a 10-ton weight straight off my shoulders. Now, bearing in mind, all the way up until the week before Christmas, I was still bricking it going, have I done the right thing? And it was like, I knew deep down I did, but I was like, I don't know. But then it was like, you know what? So I started in my own little head, like going, right, I've got this for this. If it doesn't work by this point, then I can go and do this and I can go and do that. But now it's like, yeah, it's the best. From what my higher self was saying, it is exactly what I'm meant to be doing. And it means that I can get out there and I can try and help more people, which I feel like I hope I do. I mean, I know most of you guys know that I do readings and stuff, and I hope it helps you guys. And that's the thing. But it was one of those where I just knew that I had to give it my full time and attention. And my higher self was saying, now is the time to let go. And it was just, but once I did let go, it then just like a domino effect, everything just fell into place.
Yeah.
It's kind of mad and bizarre. And I'm extremely grateful for it as well at the same time. We often
just get in our own way constantly by fighting and resisting. Again, which comes from fear programs and limited beliefs of the mind, really, because from a soul level, you know, there's no danger, you know, there's not even any danger of death at a soul level, because
no, there isn't.
the soul isn't scared of death, because there's no such thing. There's only birth to birth. So you're just birthing into a different dimension when you drop your physical body. So from the soul's perspective, it's not running those kind of survival ego programs that the linear mind is running. So I suppose this comes on to why things like meditation or grounding, mindfulness, going for a walk in nature, yoga, breath work, whatever works for everybody's got a different practice, you know, that works for them. But anything that quietens that mind or slows that conscious mind down so that you can get heart-centered. The more you can get heart-centered, the more you can trust your own intuition, your own feelings, your own guidance. And when you're heart-centered, you're opening your energy field up massively to, you know, your connection to God, source, higher self, whatever you want to call it, no right or wrong. You know, you are so much more connected. You'll get synchronicities, you'll get the right people, right circumstances, you know, coming into your life. It is like a domino effect where everything kind of like falls into place at once. So that's how we know that we're aligned with our human self, and our soul self is aligned, is when things flow. And when it feels like you're being taken down the stream rather than you're trying to wade up against the stream, you know. And even though, you know, it's not to say that you don't still have challenges and roadblocks and things like that, but the point is that you learn how to navigate round a stone in the river, you know, rather than kind of like bashing your head constantly against it. It's like, no, I want to do this, want to do this, want to do this. You know, it's just you learn how to go around it. So it's really important to do that kind of that practice of meditation or breath work, or I know that you, Minty, go out for a walk, don't you, every day, just to get some fresh air and stuff.
I try to. I do try to. There are days where I am really, really lazy and I just turn the PlayStation on and I'm like, bugger it, I'm having a human day.
And nothing wrong with that, you know. There's no,
exactly.
Again, we shouldn't beat ourselves up for having those days where you just want to eat pizza and watch Netflix. That's fine, just do that. But as long as it's as long as it's something that you need. But if you're still there after 3 weeks, you know, still eating pizza, still watching Netflix, and it's making you feel rubbish, then, you know, do whatever brings you joy in the moment. So
exactly,
eating pizza brings you joy, then do it in that moment, and then go for a walk if that brings you joy. So, you know, I think as humans we make things so complicated, and it's not complicated really. It's just finding out what brings us joy in the moment, and then not worrying about what may or may not bring us joy in the next moment, because we're not in that moment yet. You know?
Exactly.
But should we go to some questions, Min?
Yeah, we've got some great questions that I've been actually writing down. So someone's just quickly asked, when was this, Minty, and how long ago? So I'm guessing they're asking about my experience, and it was literally last October. It was towards the end of October, wasn't it? You did my past life regression, and I literally
it was July, August. I think I came over. We had your session.
Oh, was it then? Was it?
Yeah. But,
yes, it was.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is, I would like to point out is, Minty, what you've done would be difficult for anybody under any circumstances, you know, and I did it last year when I left the NHS to go full time in this work. But to do it in 2020, you know, with the uncertainty of, you know, with the virus and all of the work and everything, you know, I think it's I have to take my hat off to you. You've been so brave to do that and follow your, you know, follow your heart, follow your guides, follow your intuition, even in the, you know, financial climate that we're in at the moment. So, you know,
I think for me, it's always been a case, I've never done things the easy way. I've always made it more difficult for myself, in all fairness, with whatever choices I've made or whatever situations I've been in. There's an easy route. And I'm like, no.
The poo can relate to that.
And I'm like, no, I'm going to go and push water up a hill because that's harder. And you know, I've always kind of made it more difficult for myself. You talking about the flow earlier as well. I mean, a great experience or a great thing I've got is when me and my beautiful wife got together. Now, bearing in mind, we were 80 miles apart. It was like one of those where I was like, okay, so we're getting on and we've met up a few times and stuff like that. And within about 3 or 4 meets, I knew I had to move back to Evesham. But I was like, how do I get, at the time there weren't really job transfers going for the company I was working with. Where am I going to live? How are we going to do this? How are we going to, there were so many obstacles. But because we were so meant to be together, it was like those obstacles just disappeared. I got the job transfer. I moved back. I got a new job offer, which I then took. I found somewhere temporarily to live. And it was things like, because my wife has got children as well. So it was like, well, when's the right time to introduce me to the children? Because it wasn't going to happen straight away. And I didn't obviously move in with her straight away either. And it was just like everything just kind of fell into place. And it was like, this should have been a lot more difficult than it was. But it just goes to show that when you are on the right path, it shouldn't be an effort. It shouldn't be forced. Yes, there could be challenges ahead, but you should be able to get through them without any real massive struggle, if that makes sense. I love how Minty says my beautiful wife every time. So sweet. It's because she truly is an amazingly beautiful wife. But we've got some amazing questions here already that I think would be awesome to answer. So first one is from Kimberly, and she says, how does your mind allow you to remember what you experience? Do you want me to answer this one first, and then, or do you want to go first, Angie?
I'm not sure what she means in that.
I think it's more to do with like your past life. So when you're in that state, it's like, how does your mind remember? Now, personally, for me, I don't necessarily feel like it's your mind remembering. It's your soul that's remembering. And that soul is then, now I personally believe that if you know, when you get butterflies in your stomach, or you get like excitement or anticipation or any of those sort of little feelings, that's where I feel like your soul kind of sits, is round in your stomach and your bowel area. So when people say go with your gut feeling, it really does ring true, because that's where I feel like your soul is. And I just feel that it's then connected through the points of the chakras. So it's sort of traveling through to your heart, your throat, your mind, your third eye. And it's like you're remembering, but it's not your own fault. And it's not like, this is, see, I always say to people, it's like when I talk to spirit, I'm either a schizophrenic or I'm not too bad at what I do, because I get voices inside my head. But it's like, you just get this inner knowing. And that's the easiest way to describe it, because it is like your mind is connected to your soul and it's all interconnected and it's so much deeper and it's not your own thought process. And the thing is, when you are able to kind of distract, which I love what you call your ego, and you calls him Mr. Stupid, and I think it's absolutely brilliant. It's like you've got to go and give him a toy to play with just so he can go and entertain himself for half an hour sort of thing. I mean, it's longer than that, but it's just letting him go off and entertain himself so then you can actually talk to yourself properly. And then it's like a knowing, but it's an inner knowing, and it's not through your own thought process. And when you're in this state of relaxation as well, it's like, for me personally, I was getting images, and then I was getting smells and tastes, and it was like I was literally being put straight back in to that time period. My cat's shouting, bear with me, sorry, I've got to let him out. He's very demanding. Go on, you.
You should have mine. Look, mine's really laid back, doesn't move much.
Sorry, boy. It's very demanding. But no, and it is, it's like I was literally being put back in, and it was like I was looking it through my own eyes. The easiest way to describe it is I've gone inside my own head, and I'm literally looking through, it sounds stupid, I'm looking through my own eyes, but I'm looking at a recording through my own eyes in that strange sense. And I'm just sort of like looking down, I can see my feet, I can see my clothes. I had to look in like a mirror or a window to try and get my reflection to see what I actually looked like. But it was also like I knew how I felt. It was like this weird knowing inside of how I felt. And I could feel myself at, like, say, the age of, I think I was about 10 or 11. It was like, so I was feeling like a child. So it's not necessarily your mind that remembers, it's your soul that remembers and then transfers the information to your mind for you to be able to then play it through. So it's about being in line and in sync.
I think it's important as well to understand that everybody receives information differently from their soul and their higher self. So for some people, they are very visual. So we understand about clairvoyancy and what clairvoyance is. So, you see something in your mind. But some people are clairaudient. So you're very clairaudient as well, aren't you, Mint? So you actually like hear a voice, or there's that inner mind hearing. I'm very clairsentient, so I tend to feel when something is right. So again, if somebody said imagine yourself on a beach, I would be more imagining how it would feel to be on a beach rather than seeing myself in my, as a visual in my mind's eye. So I think that's really important for people to understand, is that whatever, I mean, we all can have multiple senses, but there's usually one sense that we're stronger in. So you may be a visual person, you may be an audio person, you may be a knowing, a feeling person. So explore that and get to know how you receive that kind of information. And during a past life regression session, this is quite a common misconception, that if you're not a visual person, when I put you into hypnosis, you're probably not going to see, a cinema screen in front of your head of a past life. But you might, if you're an audio receiver, then you might sort of get a voice saying, oh, I'm on a battlefield, or I'm in Egypt, or so you might not see it, but you might hear that information. With me, again, I'm very visual, but because I'm very feeling, I tend to feel my way around a past life. So it is the feeling that comes first, and then my mind will then identify it as a certain time, a certain place, a certain experience. So when you do come for hypnotherapy, that's something that you've really got to understand, is how do you receive information? How, if you go into a meditative state, are you the sort of person that visualizes things? Are you sort of person that feels things or hears things? So, and not everybody is going to be the same. So it's a very personal experience, and we shouldn't have any judgments or expectations about how that information comes to us. But the other thing, I did see one of the questions, but it's kind of scrolled up now. But it was something about sort of deja vu and things like that. And absolutely, deja vu can be you remembering other places, other times, especially if you go to a place where you've been before. So with me, again, as an example, it was Scotland. I'd never been to Scotland until I was age about 20, but I always used to have dreams about Scotland. I used to be on this particular beach, this particular feeling. I knew sort of like what I was dressed in when I was seeing myself on this beach. And this was kind of like daydreams, sometimes dreams, when I was asleep. And I did eventually find myself on that beach, not by intention, but just because the soul brings you to where you need to pick up bits of yourself, So sometimes we leave bits of our energy where we've had lives before, and this is very true of locations. So I've had many past lives in Scotland, mainly on the west coast. So it was really important for me. Well, I can understand it, you know, how important it was for me to end up going a lot, you know, to the west coast of Scotland, because it felt like I was going and picking up pieces pieces of my energy, pieces of my soul, if you like, that had kind of that was still there, and it was part of kind of almost putting myself back together again energetically, like that. Now you can do it physically, but you can also do it remotely as well. So so if anybody's there going, oh my God, you know, does this mean I've got to book a flight to Egypt? You know, it doesn't have to be like that. Yes, it's nice, you know, if you've got a real pull to Egypt, it's fantastic to go there and see, you know, how you feel and what memories might come while you're there. But you could also do it through a hypnotic trance, and it's really, a hypnotic trance is a bit like, it's like lucid dreaming. And the facilitator, the hypnotherapist is helping guide you along the path. So yeah, but so
Someone's made a really great comment here as well, saying I've had relationships with men that I absolutely knew I knew before, and that's really actually important as well, because also from past lives, it's not just about remembering your life. You will probably find that you connect with people in this lifetime that you have known from previous past lives as well. I know me and my beautiful wife have, and that's another really important thing. So saying that, Lisa, you turned around and said that you've had relationships with men, it most likely is that you've had this past life connection before and it has come forward again. And sometimes they don't always work because it's just not the right lifetime, but they were meant to cross your path for a reason. So again, past life can actually be very physical, in the sense of, you know, you meet someone for the first time and it's like within 5 minutes, it's like you've known each other all your life. You just get this inner knowing of knowing your inner life. You know them through past lives as well. One was horrendous and one was beautiful. Sometimes the past lives that come forward as well is to teach us a lesson, to show us that we're not going to go down the same path as what we've done before. And it's a warning of saying, are you going to go down this path again, or are you going to try a new path? And that could be what your lesson from your past life that you might not have learned the last time. And this is why it then shows up again in this lifetime to say, you need to now pick your path. You need to pick your lesson. You need to pick your journey that you're going to go on. And that's the reason why for that one as well, which I think is quite important. Does that make sense to you as well, Angie?
Oh, absolutely. And you should, you know, your greatest enemy can, in at a soul relationship point of view, can be one of your closest soul family, which is really difficult to it can be really difficult to come to terms with that, because, you know, relationships can be so brutal and it can be so traumatic. But just as an example, I mean, before I met my, you know, my wonderful husband that I'm with now, I had many awful relationships with men. And when I say awful, I don't mean they were particularly abusive or you know, traumatic in that way, but what I mean is I got my heart broken over and over and over and over again, and it was the same pattern. And really, what it was is that I didn't love myself. You know, I didn't trust myself. I wasn't enough for myself. So I used to attract relationships that I was trying to plug that hole in me. You know, I was trying to plug something that I felt that was missing in my own love for myself. And it was only really when I learned to love myself for who I am and that I'm okay as I am and on my own, that's when I then attracted a partner, you know, that worked. So some of those relationships that I've had, I'm still very good friends with them. 3 especially, I'm still very good friends with them. And the reason for that is that we are soul family, you know, we're soul mates. That doesn't mean to say that, you know, you fall in love and stay with them forever, but there's that connection between you, that energetic connection between you, that is a bit like it's a bit like nuclear family, you know. Sometimes, you know, you just don't get on with your siblings, you hate your siblings, but at the end of the day you still love them because they're still your family. And it's and we have the same sort of thing at a soul level. So we have our own soul family, people, souls that we incarnate again and again and again, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And we're all playing different roles. So, you know, maybe, you know, I was the husband in one life, and, you know, and they were the wife in one life. Maybe I wasn't great to them, you know, I was really selfish and I didn't give enough to them. So in this life, maybe we've swapped roles so that I can understand what it's like to be on the receiving end of somebody being selfish. So we play out these kind of like roles, and it can be very difficult to accept. Again, the ego can have real problems accepting that, because the ego is only interested in this life. But of course, from a soul level, because there is no pain, no death, no, you know, there's no separation really. It's just playing. It's just kind of, it's just like we're all actors, you know, in the same acting company, and we play different plays. So, you know, you do Shakespeare play one month, and you do, you know, a contemporary play the next, and, you know, you taking on different characters, and sometimes you're the villain and sometimes you're the goodie, and, you know, because it's, you know, you wouldn't want to play the goodie all the time, would you, if you were an actor? It would be boring. So it's kind of like, I want a more challenging role. I want to play the villain, you know, let me have a go at playing the villain. So at a soul level, there's no problem in doing that, because there is no death, there's no, you know, there's no pain, there's no death at a soul level. So it's only the ego mind that we start to make judgments about good, bad, right or wrong. So it gets very complicated. But I think we know, again, that gut feeling, we know when we've met somebody that we're connected to on more than just a passing in the street level. And I've definitely had relationships with people that I realised that they came into my life to teach me something, and they've gone on, and there's no connection there anymore. You know, there's no emotional connection, there's no energetic connection left between us. It's severed, it's gone, it's over. And I learned, you know, certain things from that relationship, they learned certain things from that relationship, and on we've gone. So it's kind of like ships that pass in the night. And then you get those other relationships that no matter what happens between you, you just never seem to be, you know, you never seem to break that bond, that energetic bond. And those sort of people are usually the people that you're connected to at a soul level, that are part of either your immediate soul family or your kind of like your outer kind of family. So just like you'd have your mum, your dad and your siblings as your close nuclear family, and then you'd have your uncles and your aunts, and then your cousins, and then do you know what I mean? So that happens on a soul level as well. So we've got different souls that we have different connections with, and different strengths of connections with. And that's why you do meet somebody sometimes and you think, oh my God, I'm so on your wavelength, and we can talk forever, and I feel like I've known you forever. That's probably a soulmate. And soulmate doesn't have to be romantic, you know. A soulmate can be a parent, a soulmate can be your twin, a soulmate can be your best friend from school who you still, you know, in contact with 40 years later. So soulmate isn't necessarily romantic, and I think that's a big misconception about past life and soul contracts and things, that soulmate is often seen as somebody that you fall in love with and live happily ever after with, and it's not usually like that. It's usually your soulmates that kind of like that are there to support and help you grow the most. So again, when you're heart-centered, you can recognize those energetic chords between people. Yeah.
That's exactly what I was going to say about the soulmate connection as well, that it doesn't have to be romantic. Natalie's actually put, I think that belief helps you have more empathy. And I think you're right there. I think it does help have more empathy as well. And I always, And also, when it comes to belief as well, it's like it's an inner knowing. But something I've always said to people is, even if you look at it on a scientific level, we're made up of energy. Our whole bodies are constantly creating energy all the time, every time we breathe, move, whatever we're doing. And energy doesn't change, it doesn't disappear. It just changes form.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that we need to remember. We're energy inside
meat soup.
I call it a carcass. I'll be honest with you. If I'm honest, so we're just like clumsily going around bashing. Trust me, I walked into a door earlier, and it's like, oh my god, my soul, my energy is like still can't quite figure out my left and right.
It's just the vehicle, isn't it? It's just the vehicle that our soul is driving. You know, so some of us have got a Ferrari, and some of us have got a Beetle.
Some of us just a bit banged up. But that's a great question.
So Lisa said something there about if you've been raped in a past life.
That's the question I was just going to mention.
Does that necessarily mean you have been a perpetrator? I've always wondered. Or could you just chosen to experience the one side? Yeah, no, there's no rules. So yeah, your soul might have just wanted to experience that once in that particular life, or you know, you may be in a contract with the perpetrator, you know, because they wanted to experience how that would be, and you've gone, well, okay, I'll take that on, I'll take that role for you to help you grow. So we make these like little contracts and these little agreements. But the thing about Earth is that we do ultimately have free will. So whatever we want to experience in our life as a soul, we still have the free will to, when it comes to it, to say yes or no, or to run away from it, or to embrace it. So my understanding is that Earth is just one place of many, many other planets, dimensions, you know, that we can incarnate at. And that touches on another question that I saw kind of scroll quickly past, but I can't remember who it was, when they said, I've heard that sort of like there's places running out for souls, you know, that there's only so many souls that can be incarnate on the earth. And again, I think that comes from looking at it as a more Christian sort of angle, or a religious angle, that there's earth and then there's heaven and there's nothing else. Whereas in my experience and my knowledge is that there's thousands of other places that we can incarnate, different dimensions, different planets, different galaxies, different universes. So there's no end to the possibilities, and it's just infinite. I mean, science knows that space is infinite, isn't it? Which is kind of like really crazy to get our head around. So we don't just come to Earth to incarnate. But what I would say is that, again, this is my truth, that Earth is probably the toughest. It's the toughest school going. So, you know, we come here to really get into the nitty gritty of duality, of polarity and duality. And haven't we seen that, playing out big time this last year, not just with the virus, but also, with Brexit in politics, left versus right, blue versus red, whatever. We play in polarity. There is no other, as far as I know, there's no other place that really sort of experiences polarity and duality in that dark versus light way than we do on Earth. It's kind of like going to the theme park, and instead of going on the little dodgems, you want to go on the highest, most scariest roller coaster. That's Earth.
And also, I think there's a lot of old souls coming through, because there's a lot of talk about the 3D world breaking down for the 5D world coming in. And there's been a lot of old souls over the last 40, 50 years that have been coming forward to try and help other people to adjust to this breaking down of this 3D world that is now finally starting to happen, in my personal opinion. And
sorry, Jane Hudson just said, "Can I be a Ferrari next time?" I think you decide, Jane. You decide. I always joke that I've got the soul of an elf in the body of a hobbit.
I love it. It's awesome.
Sorry.
No, it's cool. But there are a lot of old souls coming forward now, because there are also a lot of new souls that have been born here who are now facing this breakdown of the 3D world, coming to the 5D world. And there's more of a, people are calling it like a spiritual awakening in a lot of ways. And I think actually this last lockdown last year, that especially we had in this country, I think a lot of people have really self-reflected, really took stock of their lives, looked around and realized they haven't got to do these 70, 80 hour, 90 weeks, you know, and that there's more to life than having to get the next latest gadget. And it's like people are now starting to tap into the old ways, as my gran would have called it, the old ways. She was a witch, bless her heart. Don't worry, she would have liked that. But it's like they're saying that there's more of this spiritual awakening, but there's more of us old souls that have got this spiritual awakening to help many people on many different levels to adjust to the new world that's coming. And it's just been an important development coming up, in all fairness. And this is why I do feel that even if you're looking at programs, books, TV, it's all I mean, I don't know if anyone saw the latest series on Netflix, Life After Death, I think it's called. And it's like, I watched that documentary, and for the first time there was a documentary that was not biased to one way or the other. I felt it was fairly open and fairly balanced, in all fairness. There were things I agree with it, and there were things on there that I was like, nah. Don't get me wrong. I'm like, no, doesn't resonate with me, and that's absolutely fine. Might do for other people. But it's like with books that are coming out, like The Secret. Me and my wife the other night, we were watching the film The Secret. Now, it's this cheesy love romantic film, but the story in it was really, really important. If you get down to like the nitty gritty and just peel back the layers of the onion, and it's like the world as a collective is starting to, well, there's got to be more to this than what's just going on in front of us at the moment. And there's a few people out there that do feel a little bit lost. And this is why there are more and more people turning to the alternative, because they don't want to follow necessarily the church. I mean, if you believe in God, that's great. If you believe in energy, that's great. It doesn't matter what you believe in. It's your intention. It's what's in the heart.
Yeah.
Don't matter what you call it. Humans have this thing that they've got to label everything, and that they've got to box it. And it's like, actually, no, you don't. You've just got to feel. There's a difference. You haven't got to think about it. Just feel it. Because once you feel it, it's a different way of knowing, and it's fantastic.
Yeah. And I suppose really, although I've been on a spiritual path all of my life, and I'm 50 this year, but it wasn't until I became a sound therapist in 2017 that the missing jigsaw pieces were filled in for me, and that was understanding that everything is vibration and frequency. You know, that's everything is energy. You know, it doesn't matter how solid something looks. If you put it under a microscope, if you go down to its smallest particle, it is just oscillating energy, and all of energy has a frequency and a vibration and a sound to it, you know. So that was the missing pieces to me in how this whole universe works, and it is about vibration and frequency. So if you want to look at the vibration of love, the frequency of love being the highest that you can get, that, you know, so the highest realms, God, source, angelics, that is love, that is unconditional love. And then on the lower end of the scale of frequency, you've got fear, you know, grief, anger, judgment, bitterness, all of those kind of like emotions and frequencies. Really what they are is just different frequencies. So it's not that they're good, bad, right or wrong. It's just a different shade of grey between the black and the white, if you like. So And unity is about understanding that everything is relevant, and everything is needed for balance. So when we come out of judgment and we start observing things rather than judging things, then we can respond instead of reacting, and that brings us into alignment. It brings us into balance. So the whole thing about Earth being such a polarity and duality is that we're invited all the time to vibrate at the lower levels of fear, anger, judgment. And, there's plenty of that going on out there, isn't there, at the moment, through mainstream media and stuff. Or we're invited to, resonate with the higher frequencies of joy, love, bliss, gratitude. Is a beautiful one. You can't, if you're grateful about something, if you're feeling gratitude about something, you are heart-centered. You can't be in gratitude without being in your heart. It's impossible, because it is an alignment of frequency. It's an alignment of a vibration. And The Secret, was a really important book and a film to come out. And unfortunately, it was very commercialized, so it kind of tended to kind of look at more material things, the law of attraction sort of thing. But what the law of attraction really is finding the frequency within yourself of what you want to experience. So do you want to experience more peace, more joy? It's finding that as a frequency that we hold in us as energetic souls.
The beauty of the, sorry.
And then pulsing it out, and then by the law of attraction and reflection, that comes back to you. So yeah.
But sorry, the beauty of The Secret being a commercialism, though, the thing that I really liked about it was that it actually got a story and it got a purpose across to the masses. And it was about,
definitely a gateway.
It's a subtle way of getting the message out there, and I think it has worked. I mean, even I must admit, Manda been trying to get me to read his Dark Materials, the first book, probably when we first got together, and that's nearly 5 years ago. And I think I got to the first 4 or 5 pages. And then she watched the first series, and I was like sort of peering at it and like not really paying attention. Then I started watching the second series, and it literally grabbed my attention the moment they were starting to talk about the dark matter and that being a frequency. And I was like, oh, okay, now I see why you wanted me to read the book, but it's like I needed to watch it.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh, that makes perfect sense. And again, it's getting it out. It's the simple messages, but it's getting it out there. And the thing is, it's been suppressed and suppressed and suppressed for so long. Now it can't be suppressed anymore.
It can't be suppressed. Why? And this is part of what's happening is that as we go through this sector of space, the frequency of the planet is rising. The frequency rising means consciousness rising. So when people say, oh, people are awake or asleep, what they're really meaning is, are you conscious or unconscious? So people that are going around being bitter and angry and, judging other people, blaming other people, that's just them being unconscious to them as a beautiful soul, that can co-create their own life, and the more conscious you are, the more you realize that you are actually in charge of your own life, and that you can co-create with not just your higher self and your soul and your guides, but the universe, the universal consciousness as a whole. So it's not about, again, it's kind of like we've got to be really careful with kind of labeling things as good, bad, right or wrong, because we're all here as souls wanting to experience certain things, and whatever our soul wanted to learn and experience will be reflected in the life that we're leading and the experiences that happen to us. So it's more about just being aware of whatever happens to us, trying to find what that might be trying to teach us, instead of being in victim consciousness and feeling sorry for ourselves. which, you know, is part of the process of healing. So again, there's nothing wrong with feeling sorry for yourself. But again, if you're still in that kind of feeling sorry for yourself and blaming other people 3 years down the line, then it probably means that you need to start looking at things differently to move yourself forward. So starting to ask questions like, what did that relationship teach me about myself? You know, where was I not loving myself or shining my light enough, you know, that I allowed, you know, that person to treat me so badly, or whatever it is, you know. And this can be relationships, it can be financial, it can be, you know, job satisfaction. It doesn't matter, you know, because we're all going through different journeys, different paths. So but where we are going in the ascension process as a planet is that the old ways can't hold any longer. So unconscious, it's going to be harder for people to be walking around unconscious of their own divinity, of their own responsibility, and their own power as a co-creator. So that's really what the waking up process is. It's just realizing that, oh my God, I have got, you know, control, and no matter what's going on in the outside circumstances, how I feel about it inside is my choice. And there's these memes that go around on Facebook, isn't there, about what you can and can't control, what's your responsibility and what's not your responsibility. And really what our responsibility is how we feel about things on the inner, and how we talk to people, how we respond to people. And we have very little control about other people, what other people are doing and saying. But if we shine our light, if we are coming from a place of love and heart-centeredness, then just by living by that example helps others shift and change. So it's a bit like being a bit of a lighthouse, rather than trying to be the lifeboat that goes out trying to rescue other people. It's learning to be the lighthouse instead, and finding that light within you. And then when you've found that light within you, being able to shine it out so others know where to go and where to find you, to if they want to come back into the harbour and turn their own lights on. Yeah. So let me just have a scroll. Are you looking at questions, Mint? Or?
I am indeed, and there's one. Abigail in Canada said, are we recording this, and can we send the recording out, because she's got to go and do some bits and pieces, so she's not going to be able to catch it all. Is that something we're able to do?
We are recording it, but this is our first go, so whether it works or not, I don't know. But we will make it available if it works. Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Jared's actually turned around and come up with an interesting question earlier as well, and he was saying, do you keep a book of symbols that you see reoccurring and find that they resonate with you and your readings? And I'm guessing also probably about in what direction that you're going to go in as well. And I do feel that it's likely sometimes, as this is my personal belief again, as souls, we sometimes leave ourselves little clues of what direction to go in. So it might be a series of numbers, it might be your lucky number that you see, or it might be a word that you see, or a color or something. And I think those are important. And again, you just when it resonates with you, and if it feels right, it's that letting go and just following that path and going down that route. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that when we have that close relationship with it, or when we're learning to listen to our guides and our soul, our higher self more, we start to recognize how our higher self and our guides communicate with us. So it may be colors, it may be feathers, it may be, you know, it will mean something to you. So for me personally, it's always numbers. If I look at the clock and it's 21:21 or it's 17:17, or when I'm in alignment, which means, you know, when I'm on my path, when I'm doing the right, where I'm supposed to be going at a soul level. So when human me is going where my soul's asking me to go, then I get double numbers constantly coming up all the time. And it might be the shop receipt, it's come to £15 and 15 pence, or, you know, things like that. So that's my personal way of, that's my guides, the universe going, yep, you're on the right track, keep going. So if I have sort of, if I have periods of doubt, and we all have them, then I'll stop seeing those double numbers. Because if I'm in doubt, and if I'm in fear or negativity, or whatever low emotions that I've kind of like got myself into, I will stop. Those synchronicities stop. It's almost, and it can feel like your guides just abandon you, and really it's not that they're abandoning you. They're still there. Your higher self, your soul, is still there. But what you've done is that you've moved out of that heart coherence, and you've gone too much into that ego mind, and you're starting to run those fear programs and those limited beliefs that we've picked up, from childhood, from school, from failed relationships, from abusive parents, whatever, those stories that tell us that we're not good enough, we're not clever enough, we're not good in whatever way. That's when I stop seeing the double numbers, because I'm out of alignment with who I really am. So I'm long in the tooth enough to know that when I'm going down that route, then I need to stop, and I need to self-care. I need to take some hours or a couple of days out where I need to concentrate on just getting myself back into balance. Salt baths, grounding in nature, meditation, whatever it is, and then slowly things will start to shift. I come back into alignment, and there's the synchronicities, there's the double numbers, there's the sort of like, oh, that money's just come out of nowhere.
That's and that's the important thing as well. It's also about self-care. Now, one of the things I really, really struggled with, probably for a number of years, was, and again, this isn't an egotistical thing, if you don't love yourself, or if you don't help yourself, you can't help or love others as true as you can do, if that makes any sense at all. And it's about, and like I say, it's not an egotistical thing, but it's just sort of saying that you've got to look after yourself as well. If you don't look after your own energy, if you don't take the time out when you need it, and you don't rest when you need to, then you're not able to give your full self to helping others. Now, I've been my bloody own worst enemy for this one, I must admit. And I'm still fighting those boundaries of when do I say no and when don't I say no, if that makes any sense. It's the human side, but it's when you start getting tired, and that's what it, and like you were saying about the double numbers, it's like 66 has been my massive number for the last nearly 12 months now. And say that again? It's both our numbers. Okay, it's my beautiful wife's number as well. Sorry, she's shouting at me from the other room, saying that's her number as well, which it is. But it is, and it's just letting you know that you're going down the right path. But you have got to, so saying that you've got to take the time out, you have got to remember to rest and take time for you as well. And it's not all light and fluffy and working with spirit. Sometimes you, as you rightly said earlier, you might want your pizza, you might want to turn the TV on and watch some dodgy film or something, and that's absolutely fine as well. But it's just allowing your physical self to relax as well.
Again,
because your spirit,
it's about observing rather than judging. So if you observe that you're not feeling right, and you observe that you're out of balance, then you can do something about it without being in judgment of why you're feeling out of balance. So it's not about beating yourself up. Oh, I haven't meditated enough, or I'm a bad spiritual person. It's just, again, that's loving yourself enough to know that sort of like, oh, okay, I've gone a bit off balance, and I need a bit more self-care than I've been showing myself. So Stephanie just said about the observing, responding. So I can't remember exactly what I said, Stephanie, but when we're heart-centered, we come into that neutral space. So we stop judging things as being right or wrong. So we can observe something. So we can observe the behavior of somebody as not being particularly conscious or enlightened or of the highest good, if you like. So, but if you're reacting to somebody else's behavior, judging them or getting angry at them, then that's reacting. It's not observing, it's reacting. And if it's triggering an emotional reaction from you, then that's showing you a wound inside that needs to be healed. It's a belief, it's a limiting belief that you're running, a fear program that you're running, that it would be really good to explore. And where am I not shining my light so much? That judgment is a big thing, because we fear being judged by people. Persecution has been one of my ongoing things through all of my lives, and a lot of my past life regression has taken me to lives where I have been persecuted. So, very common for anybody interested in spirituality is that they've been burnt at the stake or hung or beheaded or whatever lovely way, people have, executed other people for not having the same beliefs, or not having the mainstream narrative beliefs. So I've really had to work through, issues of persecution in this life, because I'm still not healed from those times in my life, in my other lives, where I was burnt at the stake as a witch, or I was beheaded as a Catholic, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter what the particular religion or belief or whatever was. It's the frequency that we're working at. So my ongoing lesson has been working with that vibration of judgment and persecution. And how do I overcome that feeling of being persecuted? How do I overcome the fear of being judged? Can I actually, go into a Zoom event and speak my truth without going into this awful fear about how others are going to judge me, what they're going to think of me, what they're going to say about me? That's judgment and persecution, limited beliefs that my ego mind would be running. And part of the reason I'm here tonight is because I'm learning to work through that, and learning to work through it in the way that this is what I'm passionate about. My work, my hypnotherapy work, and my past life regression, my spiritual work, is what I'm passionate about. It's what gives me joy. So I need to step into my power enough to be able to speak my own truth without being, without worrying about how that's going to be received by other people, because you're never going to resonate with everybody, and you're never going to be everybody's cup of tea. But if there's one person here who, we help tonight by having this conversation and doing this event, then that to me is worth, 98 other people, having a real problem with me and thinking I'm whatever. So so that's how we learn to overcome these kind of patterns that we've been running in this life, maybe other lives. Maybe as a soul we've been working on maybe as a soul I've been working on persecution and judgment for many, many, many lives, and maybe this is the life that I actually get to, I get to break through it, and I get to heal it. But the great thing is about frequency is that if I heal that in this life, if I learn to love myself no matter what anybody else thinks about me, then you heal that in all the other lives where you've been dealing with that. And that was a pre-submitted question, was about time, really, and about, is time just an illusion? And if time is an illusion, then is there such a thing as past lives? And that's a really good point, actually, because you could say that they are actually just co-current lives. That at the moment I'm sitting here on this Zoom meeting, but at the same moment in the universe, in another moment in time, I'm co-currently in that life where I'm being hung or burnt as a witch. And how I deal with things now, in this moment, holographically, I can heal what's going on in that other experience. Maybe I just say such an amazing speech at the stake that they go, oh, actually she's not that bad, let's let her go. You never know. so that's the really good thing about past life regression, is that usually whatever your higher self shows you during a past life regression session it'll be indicating what it is that you're still working on, or what you're working on now in this moment. And that's that was very much reflected in your session, wasn't it, Minty? That you were in your life circumstances at the time in this life, you were going through some, similar issues, which was the poverty,
Yep.
and the feeling like, other people. It was, you were only okay because of other people supporting you, rather than, because a lot of men would have a problem with that, wouldn't they? Some men are brought up to be the breadwinner, to be the man of the house. I've got to be the one bringing in the money and supporting my family. So there's a lot of ancestral patterning in that, and a lot of society patterning in that could have been very, very challenging for somebody who's not as kind of open spiritually and advanced as you are. So it's a good example of your higher self showing you the real issues of what you're dealing with. And I'll kind of
it was also very therapeutic as well, in the sense of the beauty of past life regression as well can help so much in this life as well, on a counselling and therapeutic level, and just sort of helping you look at this world in a different way and in a different light. But also for me, on another personal level, I got to connect with my twin sister as well, and it was very much,
I think it's worth saying that she's not physically alive in this life.
Yeah, my twin sister, she died before we were born, but we had an agreement that I wasn't going to come back on my own. I was like, nope, I'm staying. I'm like, I like it here. It was a case of, she agreed to come back to the earth plane with me, but then she would go back and then help me from the other side, which she now gives me a size 12 of my backside, which is quite great. I'm grateful for. But it has helped on a therapeutic level, on the sense of you saying about current situation sort of thing. Whereas in my past life, I'd lost my family, basically. I'm not going on a woe is me or anything like that, but I've disconnected myself from a very, very large portion of my family through personal reasons. But it's helped me in the sense of knowing that's okay. That's all right to do. Society got this thing that you're supposed to love your parents, you're supposed to love your siblings, you're supposed to love different members of your family. It's took me a long time to realise, actually, no, it's all right not to, because it's like, they might not have been as helpful, they might not have been as supportive, and you could come from a family where it's quite abusive in some respects, whether that's physical or mental abuse. It's in some respects, I personally think mental abuse is worse than physical. But it was one of those where my past life regression, where I was then able to talk to my twin sister, and she was sort of giving me confirmation I'm doing the right thing and it was okay. So in that sense, it kind of gave me like a counselling therapeutic session as well, and allowed me to put a lot of anxieties or worries to rest in that sense as well, which then allowed me to move on again, in all fairness. So past life regressions, you might have had a traumatic experience in your past life, but if you can kind of come to acknowledge that, see it in the way that it was, but realize that, okay, that hasn't got to affect me anymore. It can then help you in this lifetime to not, it could be sometimes that you bring a pain from a past life that can hinder you in this life. So by having the past life regression and seeing your old self and dealing with that, can then release that pain in this life and then help you move forward as well. So it can be very therapeutic.
Yeah, because Belinda said, do you think phobia could be a manifestation from life? And absolutely it can. I mean, it can very well be from a childhood, this life, that you just don't remember. But it can definitely come from a past life. And
I have a massive fear of spiders.
Yeah.
And I have done ever
Me
since
too.
I was a kid. Now I am, I'm 6'2". I'm kind of big and hairy.
Yeah.
You show me a little spider and I'm screaming like, not being a sexist or any offence or anything like that, but I'm screaming like a 5-year-old girl down the path, running away. I'm probably worse than them in all fairness.
Yeah.
I am absolutely petrified. Now, one of the things in my past life regression was, why have I got a fear of spiders? And I actually got shown that I was put in a box and that I actually, as a child, had spiders poured on me in this past life. And
I've forgotten about that.
God, I'm having nightmares about it now.
Yeah.
But it was like, oh, okay, that makes sense why I got it, because they literally poured them on my. It was like a group of kids that held me down, got a massive bag of spiders or jar of spiders, and literally poured them onto my face. And it is just like my biggest fear ever. It really is. So in a past life, it's like, oh, well, this is why you're scared of them. I'm like, okay, I now know why I'm scared of them. Still hasn't stopped me from being scared of them, to be perfectly honest
and
with
again,
you.
it's because it's the vibration. So you're remembering that, you know, that fear, that horror, as a vibration. That is a frequency it's almost like it's got stuck in your energy field. So
Yeah.
you know, was that in our past life session, or was that another?
No, that's in our past life, because you
Was it?
actually asked why was my fear of spiders.
That's really strange, because I have no recall of that. I don't even know whether you actually verbalized it to me, or whether you just, because sometimes
It was in the recording. It
Oh,
was
is
in the
it?
recording. Yeah, it was in the recording.
So,
But yeah.
Yeah, because I have no I can't recall that at all. I mean, what I should have done at the time was kind of like help you desensitize from that. So that's a slap on my wrist.
It's all right.
But that
The
obviously
last 40 years, the last 40 years I've been scared of spiders. It's okay, I can carry on. It's great when my little 6-year-old though comes up to me and goes, Minty, come and see this. And it's like, we've got to get you over your fear. And she takes me into the garden and finds the biggest spider ever. And I'm like, no. And she's like, you're such a wimp. And
I have
she's like,
to, and it can really work on larger things as well. So for instance, I always had this really deep fear of losing my partner, like suddenly, you know, through accident or, you know, illness or something like that. And it was really a deep-seated fear of mine. And during my life between life sessions, the life that I went, the past life that we started off in, I was a male. I was in Scotland. It was one of my Scottish lives, but I lost my wife through childbirth. She died shortly after childbirth, and the grief and the loss of that was just absolutely overwhelming. And my session was actually filmed by Leon, who I work with, the hypnotherapist, and it is on his website on innersighttherapist.com if anybody wants to go and see it. But I just start crying my eyes out, and it was, you know, that emotion came up. I mean, you know, I'm quite dignified. I like to think I am. You know, I wouldn't start bawling my eyes out in front of you know, so a therapist, unless there was really something coming. It was like when you're going to be sick, you know, there's that point where it's just going to come and you're just going to vomit. It's like that. It was like emotionally vomiting this awful grief and despair and heartbreak of losing my wife in that life through childbirth. And I never got over it in that life. I ended up basically dying of a broken heart. I took myself away into a cave and just kind of like died of hypothermia and a broken heart. And but going through that grief, and what Leon did at the time was desensitizing me to it, so taking me through it. But then but when I go through the death process, understanding that there is no death, that there's only birth to birth, so that, you know, there was no need really to feel that deep separation and grief, because I'm always connected to that soul, you know, and I still am connected to that soul. So those soul relationships are eternal. So you never really lose anybody. And but what's interesting to me is that since I had that, which was 2018 now, so it's gone on for 3 years ago, that fear of mine has subsided. I haven't got that fear anymore. I haven't got that fear of losing my partner or my husband suddenly. My husband's actually sitting here next to me. It's like, I don't want him to pop off anytime soon, but what I mean is, it's kind of like, it's enabled me to see things from a higher soul perspective and see through the illusion of physical death. So it's not a fear that I'm carrying anymore in this life. And it really, you know, it really has been a weight off my shoulders to get to face that fear and get away and work through it and heal it. So Yeah, there's many ways that sort of that past life regression can help us. And on the more positive side, when I started to become when I was kind of and ahhing about becoming a sound therapist, because it was a lot of money and it was a lot of time and a lot of commitment, and I really, you know, I had all of those, again, those limited beliefs in my head saying, oh, you're not good enough to do that, you know, you're not good enough to stand in front of people and give them sound baths and all that sort of thing. Who are you know, to think that you can be, you know, of service to anybody. But at the time, somebody gave me a free past life regression because they were training and they just wanted somebody to practice on. So they practiced on me, and I went straight back to a life in Egypt where I was working with sound, light, tone and energy. So, and it was a very positive past life. Nothing horrible happened. But it was all about showing me that I already had this knowledge within me. I already had the knowledge of working with sound, tone and frequency, and it was just something that I needed to remember. It's not what I needed to learn. I already knew it. It was just a case of bringing all of that knowledge that at a soul level that I was carrying in my soul, my energetic level, through into this life to be able to utilize in this life to be of service to people. So past life regression, it's not all about, you know, finding out what horrible ways you've died. You know, it can very much be about showing you what your gifts are, what your natural gifts are. Are you a natural communicator? Are you a natural clairvoyant? Are you, you know, whatever your gift is, you know, and giving you the confidence to really own that, you know, and think, oh my God, you know, I have got this. I can be of service to people. I can help people. And when people ask me sort of, what is my mission? I don't know what I'm here to do. It's, again, the human side of us makes it so complicated, and really it's so simple, and we're all here just to love and be loved, and to be of service to other people in joy. So not being a martyr to people, and not sort of, you know, doing things for other people that deplete ourselves, but it's about being of service to other people by doing what lights you up. So if you're an artist and making, you know, painting lights you up, then do that, because that's going to be of service to other people that want amazing piece of artwork on their wall, because that makes them feel better. When they're stressed, they look at your picture and it calms them down, you know. So, and it doesn't have to be huge. We don't have to be famous. We don't have to be an Oprah or a Tony Robbins or, you know, a big celebrity, a David Attenborough type thing to be of service to the world. You know, just being the best grandparent that you can be, or making cakes for your community, or, you know, it doesn't have to be big and grandiose. That's the ego that wants to everything to be grand and huge and famous, but our soul just wants to give love. So we all need to really find out what brings us the most joy, what makes us happiest, and then find a way of bringing that into the world to be of service to other people. And I'm a great believer in, if you are doing what you love, then the universe will bring you the circumstances, situations, money, people to help you to do that. So quite often, because we live in a society that really undervalues, you know, anything really artistic or creative. It's all about, you know, making money and being a success, and, you know, it's very male and intellectual and you know, mind orientated. The heart stuff is very undervalued and very suppressed. The feminine, really, isn't it? It's the divine feminine is depressed, it's suppressed and undervalued in our society. So we're often taught that if I want to paint pictures, you'll never make money from that. Or, oh, but I just want to bake cakes for anyway. Well, that's not going to be successful. How can you do it? I want to play video games. Well, you know, how are you going to make a living from playing video games? That's silly. But people do. Everybody, we've got you can find an example of everybody making a living, you know, and a good living from doing what they love somewhere. And the only difference is that that person that's making, that's full-time making a living from doing what they love, is that they hadn't allowed the limited beliefs and the persecution, the judgment, and the opinions of others to get in their way of doing it. And if somebody had told me, 3-4 years ago, that I could make a living from playing gongs and Tibetan bowls, I'd never have believed them. I thought it was stupid. But I am, and even in COVID, and even though I'm not actually working at the moment in that way, and I've gone into doubt, I've gone into fear, I've had those dark times, I've had those kind of like negative, angry, frustrated days. But when I get back into alignment, when I get back into my heart center and trust the universe, the money comes in from somewhere. And it may not be, a big lottery win, but it'll be enough to get me over this particular challenge that I've got, but the trick is to keep trusting. And that's the hard part. And that's what you were saying earlier, isn't it, Minty? That even though you knew absolutely that you had to give that notice in, you still got to trust. You've still got to trust that next step will be there, that something will rise up just as your foot goes down onto in that, we're permanently stepping off the cliff and off the cliff and off the cliff. And it's that kind of having that trust, and knowing that we will be all right, that we will be supported as long as we are in alignment with what our soul is.
And the truth is, I'm still bricking it today. I still worry about it. I still get nervous. I still question, am I doing the right thing? But I think because I'm still keep walking it, it does kind of get a little easier each step that you go forward as well. But it is, there are days where I still think, Christ, have I done the right thing? It's because of what we're sort of structured to do.
Yeah.
It's to break it away from that structure still. There's a great question here, though, from Stephanie. She says, in regards to past lives, do animals come to us on a soul level? I also feel some of the pets I've had have been in my life before, perhaps even in a different form. And I'm a real firm believer that our pets or animals are also part of our soul family at the same time as well, and they come in many different forms as well, without a shadow of a doubt, apart from spiders. But no, there are animals that do come to us who are part of our soul family as well, and I think that's the other beauty as well. It's like people say that a lot of people, I think, just tend to think that communication, the only way to communicate is through language. And it's like, well, actually, no, it's not. Because I know when my cat wants feeding and I know when he wants letting out.
Yeah, but he always wants feeding, Mint. So there's...
Exactly. I've got a 50-50 bet on it. And I'm pretty much losing every time. But no, they come up, they let you know when they want love. They let you know, and they can share that love as well. And again, that's on a soul level, because it's like when you connect with an animal. I mean, Sarah, I saw you with your dog earlier. The dog is beautiful, by the way. But you could just see the love and the energy between you guys, between you and the dog, was amazing. And it was just unconditional love as well. And that's the kind of love we're talking about, isn't it? It's the unconditional love that you get. And it just lifts you straight up.
That's the bond. That's the bond that you have between you. You can have it with people, you can have it with animals. And, I mean, I've had some animals that, have come and gone, and I've loved them and everything, but they've gone, and it's kind of like I've grieved them, and then that's it. And then I've got 2 cats at the moment. One of them has been with me twice, so it's his second visit here. And this black one here, this laid back old soul cat has been with me 4 times. So this is his fourth incarnation. and again, it's kind of like, it's a recognition of the energy of that soul. So it's not just wishful thinking. It's not kind of like, oh, I want my cat to come back again because I miss it so much. It's like, when this kitten came, it was quite obvious within sort of like a week or two that that this was the same soul back again in a different body. So, and it has to be an agreement between their soul and your soul. So again, it's kind of like, they may come back to you, they may not, because it might not be in your highest good to have them come back to you again. So, you know, again, from a soul level, what our soul knows is good for us isn't always what our ego thinks is good for us. And also, things like law of attraction doesn't work in that way that it's commercially put out to be, because, you know, you can focus on having that particular house that you think is your dream house, but your soul might know that next year you're going to get a lucky break and you're going to have to go and work in Hawaii or something. So, you know, but your ego doesn't know that. All your ego wants is that house that you've seen, and you're going to be, you know, positive think, I'm going to have that house. But, you know, higher up, it's kind of the higher perch can see other things ahead for you. So that brings me back to that kind of saying of what's for you won't go by you. Really, what it means is if it's for your highest good and for your growth, then it will come to you. And if it's not, then you can be pretty sure that it was really just an ego thing. It was a desire of the ego and not a desire of your soul.
That's like me wanting the pizza and not getting it.
Well, I'd still like to win the lottery, but deep down, I know that part of my lessons here are working through the poverty, you know, because I need to learn how to co-create with the universe to keep bringing money to me, which is what I'm doing through this, you know, COVID situation. I've had no help from the government or anything. I fell through all of those nets. So I've had to go into trust and co-create on a soul level to keep myself financially afloat. And when I'm in alignment, money comes to me. When I'm out of alignment, when I go into fear, blame, judgment, you know, frustration, it's kind of like, oh, bloody government not giving me anything, it's not fair. You know, money stops. But if I come out of that judgment, come out of that polarity and go back into heart-centered, and that, like, I trust that money, you know, I'm abundant, healthy, you know, money comes to me easily and frequently, you know, and you just allow it in and the universe brings it in. And I've had so much money come to me in the last week that it's unbelievable. And I would have never have known how or why that money was going to come to me, but it did. But I recognize that money's come to me because of the vibration that I was in, because of the heart-centeredness that I was in, you know, this last week, from not yesterday, but the Friday before. I changed my vibration, because the week before that, I had a really, really bad week. And you know this, Mint, because, you know, we kind of messaged back and forth about it, didn't we?
We did. I
was in a really dark space, and I was really, you know, in judgment and anger and fear. And, you know, but I know that it's okay to process through those emotions and look at anything that those emotions are bringing up. So, you know, what is this wanting me to face? What is this trying to teach me? And then I made the decision to change my vibration, to get back into alignment, to meditate more, not just think about meditating, but actually meditating. Instead of saying, oh, I'm going to go for a walk today, actually go for a walk today.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
So gradually over the last week, bringing myself back into alignment, and hey presto, everything, you know, the money starts to flow again, the right people come along, you know, the right sort of synchronicities. It's kind of it's mind-blowing when you start. So if you've, you know, if you're having trouble with this concept of, you know, that sort of law of attraction and the vibration you send out is reflected back to you, then just try doing it as an experiment, just for a day. You know, just think, I'm just gonna believe that good things are gonna happen to me today, and put that out as a vibration and see what happens. And you will find that you've had a better day today than you did. Oh, there's a pussycat.
There is. There's a cat there getting some love and cuddles. I bet it wants feeding.
So yeah, so I think there is only this now moment. There is really no past or future. There is only this now moment. So this now moment is the only one that you need to worry about. So, you know, anxiety is just...
Oh, there's a dog there as well.
Yeah, let's see all your pets.
We're loving the pets. And I think that's the important thing as well. Obviously, we're talking about money at the moment as well. And this has been one of my own biggest battles, is charging people for what I do. And it's, at the end of the day, I think one of the things that I've had to learn, and I have found, and again, this is through support of friends and also my beautiful wife as well, is saying, it's like, for me as an example then with my readings, and this is for anyone that's either creative, spiritual, or anything like that. For me with my readings, it's not about paying for the reading, it's paying for my time. And that's the thing that it is. And it's been a real struggle and battle for me, because it's like, I found it very, very difficult saying that I can't charge someone for what I do, because it's like me giving advice or energy or something like that. And it's like, actually, you can. And then when other people say no, you can, it was like, okay. And I then had to overcome my own sort of guilt in a way by asking people for paying for what I do. But then we are living in a world, and then this is like where this is like my spiritual side and human side kicking into it, going, but you live in a world where you've got to eat. You live in a world where you've got bills. You live in a world that's got to have a roof over your head to keep warm, because if you don't look after those basic fundamentals, you can't then carry moving on doing helping people. Again, I hope I help people, and I feel like I do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's like, you've got to look after that. So you've got to, someone said it earlier, it's an exchange of energy. And it's just that everyone always looks at money as being like this really negative form, but actually it can also be used for the positive. It can be used for the good. And it's just trying to get your own mindset around that. And that's been another one of my massive battles that I'm struggling with sometimes a lot.
Well, we all do, don't we? Again, it's kind of like nobody's got it sorted, because, you know, because we're still in a human body. we've still got a human brain, which is the problem, really.
And also, the human experience is great fun at the same time as well, though. It's not all doom and gloom. It is great fun at the same time.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's going back to that roller coaster, isn't it? You get on the roller coaster and you think, oh my God, I'm not sure actually whether I want to go through with this now. You know, and you get to the top and it's like, oh my God, I'm so scared. And then it's like, you know, oh, I'm really enjoying this. This is great. Oh my God, it's going up another big one. It's just like, you know, I think when we just understand that is life, it is a roller coaster. But the thing is, it's like, when you go down, you've got to go up again, and you're all going to get off. You're all going to get off, and you're all going to be okay. So we've got lots of people leaving, which is not a surprise, because it's like we've gone way over, which is fine. Cool. I'm happy to stay, but I just wondered whether if anybody wants to, does anybody want to like come on script if I put you on?
If you like wave or something.
Does anybody want to kind of say anything?
Kimberly does. Anne-Marie does. Sarah does.
Let me go to Anne-Marie, because I've...
Sarah, are you stroking your dog or are you waving?
Oh no, I'm waving.
Oh right. You're waving. Okay, sorry, baby. Oh, we got the bear.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's a bear. Okay, I've unmuted Anne-Marie, so...
Am I here? I don't know.
Yeah,
and you're talking.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Have you got a question, or do you want to share anything, or?
No, I'm just enjoying everybody's cats and dogs and.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think Kimberly wanted to ask a question in a minute, if that's possible.
Okay, where's Kimberly? Wave, Kimberly. Oh, there she is. There she is.
Hello, beautiful.
Okay.
She's still muted.
Oh, you're still muted. Oh no, you're unmuted.
There
you go.
Hi, Kimberly.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I
We
can.
Okay, perfect. So thank you both. I've totally loved this. But can I ask this question? And it's probably self-explanatory to myself in my head, but I keep getting into the same type of relationships. We fall in love and then we're done. I get ghosted. I'm obsessed with getting them back. I don't get it. I know I don't know what happened. And every time I get told that they fell in love with me and their love is so deep, they can't handle the love I give. I don't know.
Well, it's a bit of sort of 6, 1 1/2 dozen of the other, isn't it? So it's kind of like if they can't take the love that you're giving, there's there's obviously some wounds and healing that they need to do about accepting and receiving love. But also it's kind of like sometimes when we're not here, when we don't love ourselves enough, we try and just pour our love onto somebody else, trying to get that back again. So it is that kind of like, where are you not loving yourself? Where, what are you trying to get from this other person that you can't really get from yourself? And that, I mean, having such a what's the word I want? Like strong emotion is quite a good indication that there's an imbalance somewhere,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But if you I mean, journaling is quite good. So if you wrote down, all of your relationships and just find the essence of what was going on with that relationship, and just write down a few sort of like strong bullet points or emotions about what that relationship was all about, and see whether you can find that pattern, because it will always come back to somewhere you're not loving yourself enough. And that's not a judgment thing. That's not you're doing something wrong, but it's just somewhere, and there's a limited belief or a program that you're running in the conscious mind that's telling you that you're not lovable in some way when you are, so and sometimes this is where inner child work can help. So try and get yourself still and maybe into a kind of a meditative state, and see whether, ask your higher self to show you whether there's an age in this life. So maybe you were 7, maybe you were 10, maybe you were 20, where you've taken on a belief that you're not quite good enough, that you don't deserve to be loved, or where the fear of being abandoned came from. Because abandonment, that's right up there with judgment and persecution, one of the main main ones that we deal with as humans. So sorry, you moved across my screen. Somebody must have left in front of me. I was like, where is she? She's gone. Oh, there she is. So
sorry, Minty did a reading for me, and the first thing he picked up on was, your dad is here and he's sorry about the way he treated you and he made mistakes. And I know that's where it's from, because I was the only girl. I had 3 brothers, and he would always say, you're a girl and you should be seen and not heard, not a child, a girl.
Yeah.
I remember going through, and he said, you went to college and my smart kids went to university. Like it was always, I was less than them.
Yeah, well, that's quite obvious then, isn't it? When that's quite an obvious example of where you've picked up a limited belief. So even though as an adult you might sort of consciously know that actually I am lovable, I am worthy, but that subconscious program is running, and unless you can change that tape, then the conscious mind, whatever you're thinking consciously, it's still going to be running as an unconscious program behind the scenes kind of thing. So but again, this doesn't have to be complicated to heal. Just getting quiet and really remembering those times of when your dad said that to you, and then just imagining yourself at that age and remembering how that made you feel, and then as your adult self now going and finding her and loving her and just putting your arms around her and saying, you know, it's absolutely fine, you are lovable, and we are going to be happy, and you come with me, you know, and you know, into the future, and you can just play. And you know, you basically parent yourself. You become your own parent to your own inner child, and what that really does at a soul level, it integrates the missing parts, the missing fragments of your soul. It brings them back into alignment.
I'm gonna try that for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Oh, you're welcome. I mean, it's, you know, it's very, very common, and we've, you know, we've all, if we've had those kind of pattern relationships, that it is from something we've picked up out of ourselves, because, you know, we come into this world as perfect, beautiful, divine souls full of unconditional love, thinking we can do anything. I mean, you watch any child and they think they can do anything. They love unconditionally. They are sparkly, aren't they? Until they get told otherwise by other people. And, you know, unfortunately for many people, it is their parents, or even if you're lucky enough to have loving parents, then as soon as you get into the school system, then you start being told, oh, well, you can't write, or you're rubbish at that, or you need to try harder at this. And, you know, so that's where the, you know, the comparison and the competition starts, and they're like, oh, well, I'm not like I'm not supposed to, you know, everybody's this and I feel like I'm that, and there must be something wrong with me, where it's not. It's just that you're not fitting into the square pegs that is the accepted norm of that day or that decade or that culture or that religion. So yeah, so finding where we're running those negative programs, those if you just,
I would do that through meditation.
Yeah.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if you've searched YouTube, you could probably find some appropriate, you know, inner child healing meditations, or, you know, there's always something on YouTube, isn't there? But again, you know, it's whether you resonate with something. So, you know, have a look and see whether you resonate with a certain meditation or something. And some people like to be guided in meditation, and some people just like to be left, you know, to go to do their own process. So, which is one of the beautiful things about sound baths, and what I love about doing sound baths for people, is that the sounds occupy the conscious mind, and it allows the unconscious to come to the surface and explore.
Sorry, what was that called?
Sound baths. I'm a sound therapist as well, so I do sound, basically meditations to sound, so gongs, Tibetan bowls, singing bowl, crystal bowls and stuff like that. So if you want to go on my website, which is www.sacredearthsoundtherapy.com.
Yeah, don't ask me to say it, because I forget everybody's bloody website. I just don't have to post links up afterwards going, check this, check that. Yeah. I always word it wrong.
Yeah. Can I repeat it back?
Yeah, it's
www.sacredsoundtherapy.com.
Sacred Earth.
Oh, Sacred Earth, sorry.
Yeah, Sacred Earth Sound Therapy. Yeah. So I've got a link to my YouTube channel on the website, which will take you to some free sort of meditations and sound meditations and stuff. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
It works for some people, other people it doesn't. It's, you know, everybody's different. So yeah. But that's
okay.
a great question. Thank you, Kimberly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody?
Jared's asked where to book for a regression, but he can go through your page, can't he, to book you for a regression?
Through the website. Yeah. So yeah, send me a message to the website. So I can do past life regression. I can do like this through Zoom, but it's just for what me and Minty were talking about going into the spirit realms and the life between life. That's really better done as a one-to-one, because you need to be in a deeper state of trance. So depending on whether you easily go into trance or not will depend whether a Zoom session is appropriate or not. But anybody really can do a past life regression via Zoom, so I can do that if anybody wants to send me an email. and
I highly recommend it.
Yeah. But yeah. So anybody else want to put their hand up?
There's 4 people that I can't see. True Spiritual Medium would like to come on and ask a question.
It wasn't actually a question. It was just to thank you both for your time and doing this and letting us all sit in and listen. And hopefully learn and take something away with us. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Hope you guys have enjoyed it tonight. I know it's all been a little bit hit and miss to start with, but trial and errors. And,
yeah,
but for people that know,
but
for people that know me, I'm not exactly, I say a time and you can always guarantee you have to add on 15 minutes or something because I'm just like, I'm always a bit off the cuff.
Thank you very much for coming, everybody for coming. It's just been, and for those that have come and then gone, so it's fine. So yeah, it's been
really, really awesome. I mean, if you guys would be interested, would you be up for doing something like this again?
Definitely.
Cool. Angie, would you be up for doing this again?
Oh yeah, I can talk all night. It is my favourite subject. All things soul related is my favourite subject. So yeah.
Well, then maybe I'm sure we'll get together and we'll organise another evening for you guys to be able to join us. But no, I would just like to say thank you all so much for taking the time out your evening and joining us and supporting us as well. So
you will be here if we weren't locked down.
Say that again. Sorry.
Would everybody be here if they weren't locked down, or would they be in the pub?
You never know. We might end up doing one from the pub.
I'm not gonna self-judge about that. Yeah, we're live in a pub. I mean, that I'd really much be. I'd rather be in a room full of people, definitely. So definitely. roll on those times.
Exactly. That's something we might be able to turn around and do, which would be really, really cool. I know one here in. Oh, what's that, Jared? Sorry, mate. Just going to read your comment.
Should we unmute?
He knows somewhere with some good beer. I hope you do, mate. Otherwise, you're a terrible brewer.
I've been necking my vegan Baileys all night.
Well, I nearly had a beer, but then I just found the tap and I ended up having water. But I'm going to have a beer later, I reckon. Has anyone else got any other questions or anything that they would like to ask? If you want to wave or pop a question up or something.
Oh. You're still unmuted, I think.
Yeah, I am. What I did want to ask is about the past life regression is I've always got one image that always... I can't say it haunts me, but it's always there and I can see it clear as day. How old but I know it's me, but it isn't me, if you know what you know what I'm talking about. I can see what they're wearing, I can see the colour of the hair, I know how old I am, I know how I die. But it's weird because well, I don't know, it's almost as if I've brought that fear with me into this life because I've got a fear of fire. And somebody tried to rape me in the previous life, if I can quickly say. And I was 13, 14 years old and I was running through the woods. I'd got no shoes on. I was in sort of raggy clothes, running along. And I went to hide in like a little, almost like a little log cabin, but it was ramshackled, And because I wouldn't come out, they said if I didn't, they were going to burn me alive in there. And they said, you either come out, and I knew what was going to happen if I come out, and I didn't want that. So I stayed where I was, and I actually got burnt to death.
Mm.
Now, would that possibly be why I am worrying about fire in this life?
Sounds pretty obvious to me.
It does. I was going to say, I saw it sounding obvious to me as well.
Called me Sherlock Holmes, but...
Well, I did presume it was, but I thought...
Yeah, I mean and that's really strong, isn't it? Because not only was that the way that you died at the hands of perpetrators, but you know, that emotion, you know, the other emotion of it. So it's not like it was an accidental fire. It was a deliberate act of violence against you, because you chose not to have another act of violence against you. So that's a real kind of double whammy, you know, vibrationally, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't have much choice. It was either do that or do that, and I didn't want to.
Yeah. So what I could advise you to do, you could have a go at this and see whether it has an effect, whether it works, is that again, like I was saying to the other Kimberly, you can go put yourself back into that situation, but from not being it as that girl, but being in front of her, you know. Right. So you're a third person really, but you know, but you're communicating to her soul to soul, like your soul and her soul. You are one soul, but you're at the moment there's two parts of you that are communicating. You know?
Right. How would I find out, sort of thing, if that was my last life that I was in, or whether I've had more in between? But that one, it's just always coming forward all the time. And the urge to go to Egypt, you mentioned it yourself as well. I was sort of nodding my head off. I had such a big urge to go to Egypt. It was absolutely unreal. And I did say if I'd never gone by the time I was 40, I wasn't never going to go. And when I was 42, one of my daughters had been saving up madly to get there. And I'd actually, I'd burst into tears about going. So we actually got to Egypt. And it was absolutely fantastic there. And she said, you know, I'm really sorry I couldn't do it before you was 40. She said, but just to prove you wrong that you're not going to, you know, you're gonna get there. So yeah, it was quite strange really, but there was always a pull to Egypt. And another one is always the Titanic. Every time it's on, it's sort of, I'll get like a hauntingly weird feeling inside. And I don't know whether I was actually on there or not, but the feeling is just like there is some connection there. And obviously I've got connections to other things that are not big events, you know, as well, obviously, but
okay, so there's quite a lot of kind of different threads there which are really interesting and that I'd kind of like to talk about. So I mean, whether that's your last life or not, the burning, really it doesn't matter. What matters is that is the life that your higher self is trying to communicate to you. That is the life that is it wants your attention, and it's bringing your attention to it because there is healing to be done there. And if you do the healing there, then it will benefit you to your life path now. So your higher self will never show you anything that is not relevant to now. That is one of the first things that I learned in past life regression, that we may have been here for hundreds and thousands of lives, but the ones that are relevant to your life path now, and the frequency, the energy, the vibration you're working with now, the lessons you're working with now, those are the ones that your higher self will bring through. And even if you have several past life regression sessions throughout your life, you know, your higher self will still, it will either bring you the same one in every time until you've dealt with it, you've faced it and you've healed it, or it will, you know, it'll bring you up something, you deal with it, you heal it, and then you move on, and then the next time it'll bring you up something different. So so there's several different reasons why you could be remembering a past life, but always know that if it's got an emotional memory to it, then it is something that's being brought to your attention. Now,
I can just vividly see, you know, when you have a dream, and it's because I remember quite a few of my dreams as well, and I can go to the toilet, come back and go back into that dream. And it's just the most weirdest thing. But this one is just so vivid. It's like every single day, if I want to remember it, I can bring it back and I can literally see that but I do not ever see the person chasing me.
Because that's probably not important, and maybe they're not anybody that you know in this life, you know. So just because somebody's been a perpetrator to you in another life doesn't mean that they're part of your soul family, or that you are with them in this life either. So you know, there's no kind of hard rules. Sorry.
I had a very, very turbulent lifestyle with my with my daughters, and it was absolutely horrendous. And I sometimes wonder back whether he might have been the person linked to. I'm just wondering, because there's a lot of, when I look back, there's a lot of, well, things happened, and you know, and I just wonder, could that be the same person?
It can be, and I think you would know on the, you know, I think always trust your deep feelings, and I think this is where practices of meditation and quieting the mind do help you in all areas of your life, because it teaches, really what meditation teaches you is to identify different frequencies and vibrations, so that you know the difference between a mind, you know, a mind generated limited belief or programming, and what's true. There'll be a different feeling, a different resonance. It's a different frequency when you're heart centered to when you're running things through the mind, and your mind is kind of making things up, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So, but I do want to caveat about the Titanic thing. So, because sometimes it's not an actual past life that we've had, but it may be a genetic memory that's come through.
That's what I wonder. It could even have been somebody in my family who was actually on it, you know, and yeah. One of the family was. But there's definitely some sort of, you know yourself, but there's some sort of pull there, and you can't always explain it, but it's there, so you know.
Yeah. So it's so there's all these possibilities and different ways of looking at things, but really, you just have to keep going back onto the inner, and just sort of like saying, what is this trying to teach me? Is it trying to send me a message? Because if it's something that you're meant to grow from and learn from, then it will keep, you know, it will keep reoccurring. It will keep coming back.
Thing is as well, because of Titanic and water and everything, I'm always worried about drowning. I can't, going into water absolutely terrifies me, terrifies my life out.
And I think that's the thing with phobias, isn't it? If you think that you've got a fear of drowning, there's part of you that is thinking, oh, is that my destiny, that I'm going to die through drowning? So you would avoid going on boats, or you avoid flying, or whatever it is. So so again, it's like exploring that as a past life could be very beneficial, because if you know that it's just an echo from a past life, it's not actually a premonition of your destiny in this life, then then you can let go of that fear, you know.
Well, I actually did for my 50th, and I thought I was going to die on my birthday. We actually went not scuba diving, you know, and you just go with a
snorkeling.
That's the one. And was in Egypt at the time, and I said, if I don't do it, I'm never going to do it. And I actually went snorkeling in the water on my 50th, but I nearly drowned my husband, because I said, don't let go of me. Whatever you do, do not let go of me. And he didn't realise I lost my flipper, I lost my snorkel. My life jacket come up around my neck. I'm nearly choking on the life jacket, panicking like mad. But before I'd even got into the water, I said to the guys, please go steady, because I don't like water. I can't swim. Yeah, we'll go gentle. What did they do? Push me. Flipper fell off, the snorkel went flying, everything else. I grabbed up his husband, pushed him under the water, ducked him under, and he's like gurgling, all these bubbles coming up. And I'm thinking, what's he doing? And then I looked and I forgot I'd got my hand on his head. So, yeah.
But because it kind of shows how your fears and phobias can actually manifest your future, if you know, because you almost got into a situation where you could have drowned then, couldn't you? And that's that,
I
so,
stayed 5 minutes hanging on to the edge. I wouldn't let go, and then I got back up, and I was it. Done. But yeah, I'm pleased I've done it.
if we don't take hold of our fears and our phobias, and deal with them and heal them, then we can, you know, they can turn into self-fulfilling prophecies, not because we're destined to drown in this life, but because, you know, we're acting so much from that place of fear that is more likely to bring that experience to us. So yeah, it's really something that needs needs sort of exploring, you know, and facing and understanding where that comes from. And it may be, I've got a fear of
help with.
choking. Sorry?
So is there something, Angie, that you think you could help with if I had a session?
Well, we don't know until we get into a session, but yeah, you know, it's like nothing is guaranteed, but it's but I think the burning thing definitely is something that I can help you with, definitely, and I could talk you through that step by step by taking you back to that. And you know, again, I've done it myself with being, you know, I've gone back and healed something along that persecution, you know, being burnt at the stake thing. I healed that in myself from going back to that point. I was so angry, and it was I was gagged as well. I was tied up and I was gagged at the stake. So I had no voice. I had no way of defending myself, and I couldn't even voice my anger and frustration at what the you know, this puritanical judge or whatever, you know, was there presiding over my execution, spouting all this rubbish. You know, there was no way I could communicate anything. I couldn't defend myself. So that was a really challenging past life recall that I had to go in and do some real major healing with. And just like very quickly, how I did it was just to stand in front of myself as a beautiful, eternal, divine being of light, and communicated to her that there was no death, that it didn't matter, that all of this, you know, whatever that pastor was saying, whatever these people were chanting, whatever pain I was about to go through physically, ultimately it doesn't matter, because you're eternal and you're divine and you're spark of God, and there is no separation. There's when you're not in a physical body, you're in perfect alignment with all that is. So somehow managing to communicate that to that part of myself that was about to be burnt at the stake, and just kind of like, what happened was she lost all of that anger and she lost all of that fear, and it's just, you know, it was quite an amazing experience to go through. Myself. Sorry.
I bet it's nice to feel that healing, that you know, and to know that you finally healed.
It was it came up at the beginning of COVID, when all the restrictions and stuff came, you know, started to come in, and feeling like I was out of control, disempowered, and that other authorities had complete control over my life. So that was a very particular vibration of feeling, you know, dominated, suppressed, persecuted by outside circumstances. So that past life recall came up because that was my higher self showing me where I'd been through this before, where I'd lived with this lesson before. And ultimately, I suppose you heal it by understanding that from a soul perspective, it is just a moment in time, and it is just another experience that you know that you've gone through. And
do you think those persecutors, though, the ones that were going to burn you, do you think that they have when they come back into another life that they are then given a rough life because of what they've done in that one.
Well, yeah, well, that goes that we go into karma then, don't we? And karma, I think, is very misunderstood. I don't personally believe that karma is a punishment. You know, that, oh, I've killed somebody, so I've got to be killed by them in the next life. I don't believe that it works like that. I believe at a soul level we choose everything, and whether if we create an imbalance by doing something like that, so traumatic and violent to another soul, then at a soul level we would want to readdress that balance, you know. So we may choose to come back as the victim, or, you know, or the perpetrator, you know, as to balance up the experience, because we want the whole experience of being the victim and the perpetrator. But I don't believe that there's any power up there that says, right, you've done bad things in this life, so you're going to have to, you know, have a really bad time next life. You may have a bad time next life, but you will have chosen that for your own learning and your own soul growth, not because you have a debt to pay, you know, or it's a punishment in that way. Again, you know, other people might have different beliefs on that, but my personal belief in it from my own experience is that at a soul level nothing matters, because we all love each other totally and unconditionally at a soul level. So it doesn't, what costumes we play and what plays we're in down on this earth, on this theatre stage, really doesn't matter, because so if you are an actor and you study for that role of a perpetrator, you know, the baddie in the play, and you put your heart and soul into it, and you really kind of play it to the best of your ability, it's like when you walk away from that play and go and do another play, you carry that experience with you. You know, it becomes part of your experience, and you become more multifaceted because of that experience. So again, it's seeing things without judgment of good, bad, right or wrong. And that's not to say that it's really difficult, because then, you know, people can come back and say, oh, so, you know, are you saying that child abuse is okay, or are you saying that kind of, you know, people being cruel to animals is okay? And you're not saying that at all. That's a different thing. But what it is doing is understanding that everybody is choosing their own experience, and they will have to answer to their own soul, really, when they leave this body. So it's not so much that there's a God sitting there judging you, but you judge yourself as a soul. Sorry, Minty.
But also, no, it's okay. Also, when at a soul level, you'll say choosing to come back as an abuser or a perpetrator, you're also acknowledging that you have got to suffer the consequences for the actions and take responsibility for the actions that you're coming back to do. So on that level as well. So, for example, say a serial killer decides to come back as a serial killer. They have then got to also take the responsibility, the actions of their choices. So, you know, we're not saying that it's right to do that. We're not saying that, you know, we're not advocating that or anything in any shape or form. But what we are saying is that soul has decided at soul level to come back as a narcissist, as a absolute arse, in all fairness. They have still got to take the responsibility. Now, even though they might come back even though they might have made that choice to want to come back as a narcissist or an abuser or something, because we still have free will on earth, and because we have our morals, and because our human side does kick in, and we do have morals, we do have feelings, we do have emotions, we don't have to follow that soul contract, so to speak. We can choose once we get here and go, oh shit, I've made the wrong choice, I don't want to do this. And they can, you know, we can change and turn and go, okay, I'm not going to follow that then. I'm going to fight against it, you know. So it could be that they've chose it to fight against being that person. in that sense. Sadly, we do get narcissists, we do get arseholes that come through, and then they have to take the responsibility of their actions when they're here as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
But also,
Yeah.
if you're a soul who is working on self-esteem and you know, loving yourself enough to go your own way rather than, you know, rather than doing what everybody else sort of wants you to, so self-confidence issues, then you're not gonna learn to stand up for yourself and have, you know, and be more confident if you just have an easy life with loving parents and lovely friendships and loving partners. You're only going to learn to stand up for yourself and be more confident by coming up against people that don't treat you very well. So that's where agreements and soul contracts can come in that, okay, you know, I'll take on the role of being, you know, a neglective parent to try and teach you to stand on your own 2 feet, you know. So it's not all, you know, there's always a kind of like a balance and a contract and an agreement somewhere. And so for that kind of psychopath or narcissist or whatever, it doesn't necessarily mean that they come back the next life. They've got to redress the balance somehow, but it just might mean that their next life they are a Mother Teresa or something, where they give their whole life in service of making other people's lives better, you know. So it's not as cut and dry as kind of like I've murdered somebody, so somebody's got to murder me. It could be like I've murdered somebody, so there's an imbalance there that I've got to redress. So next time I'm gonna make sure that I'm so loving and giving to all of these people, and you know, so you redress that balance energetically. It doesn't have to be the eye for the eye, tooth for a tooth type thing. Yeah.
And another thing is, I carry a little bit of guilt with me because I was a twin, but my twin was stillborn. Mm-hmm. So I sometimes carry some guilt with me because I'm here and they're not.
Well, it's
normal to do that.
Did you hear Minty's story earlier about his twin?
Yeah, I was listening.
Yeah. So, because did you feel any guilt, Minty, before?
No, I must admit, I'll be perfectly honest. No, I didn't.
Was it more kind of abandonment that you kind of like she abandoned you kind of thing?
Yeah, I think it was. And then also because of the situation, as you know, with my family, there's very much an abandonment in my family that I've learned to move on from, if that makes sense. I don't think it's necessarily about being guilt. Again, you would have made that choice together before you came back. I
sometimes wonder whether that, because I don't know whether it was a boy or a girl. I don't know whether the twin should have been here and maybe I shouldn't. And then at the last minute it was like, no, I'm you know, and I've sort of nudged them out the way and said I'm going. But they were born with no arms or legs. And so that sort of, also, I do think, what sort of life would they have had? I'd have been standing here doing things and like, they can't do certain things. I know they get on with it and they're just born like it, but there was also that as well. But I am wondering at the last minute, maybe I nudged them out the way and thought, oh no, I'll go, you stay.
No,
I don't feel
it's not possible.
No.
It's not possible, because if that soul wanted to be here, if that was what they wanted to do, then they would have been here. There is nothing. As a soul, you cannot interfere with another soul's path unless it's an agreement between you. So, you know, that's the soul that was that was your twin was never meant to be. It was never meant to live, you know, or it was never meant to live that long or whatever. And the soul of that knew that. So, and again, you know, you've got to remember that souls are eternal. So it's only when you look at this life being the only life that you start to see things as as not fair, you know, or
Limited.
or limited, or not or injustice, you know, because that soul may well have just come in somewhere else, you know, straight away. Well, they may not. They may be like Minty's twin is, one of your guides, and Minty's twin is, you know, made the choice. It was always part of Minty and his twin's soul contract for her to come into the womb with Minty long enough that Minty was kind of like, okay, I'm okay now, almost like holding his hand energetically until he was absolutely sure that, yes, I am ready to take this life on. I am ready to come in and for, you know, and do what I want. And then Minty's twin was like, okay, I'll go back to the other side and I'll be cheering you on from there, you know, kind of thing. And she's one of Minty's main guides.
I've got a name that always comes up to me, and I just think it's me because, as you were saying, I find it hard to read for myself. And family's always like, read for me. I'm like, no, and I won't do it. Like, no. Anybody else I don't know nothing about, yeah, I'm fine with. But myself or close proximity, no, I just can't do, because I often feel like well, I don't know if it's me, because a lot of my family have passed, and my partner passed when he was only 21, so that was really quite sudden, and there's been quite a lot of deaths, unfortunately, and ill health throughout the family, so there isn't many of us left. But I sometimes wonder whether it's me wanting it that bad that I'm thinking that they're here. So I like to hear it from somebody else so that they can confirm. So it's not me just thinking that, you know, they are about and everything else.
Well,
but
Mint,
I can't confirm it for myself.
Can you tune into that, Mint?
I can have a go.
This is your area. While Mint is tuning in, I'll just say, you know, for those that are left, you know, thank you for still being here, but it is absolutely fine if you want to go, because, you know.
It's definitely a male. And I'm getting David.
Oh, right, okay. I'd got a male, but it wasn't David. But
okay. Can I ask who it was?
I do know who David probably is. It's my husband's brother, and he was only 9 when he passed away, and he was David.
Right.
Can I just get him in here to tell him, because this will mean the world to him. Yeah. Andy, come in here a minute, please. Sorry, because he's...
No, it's okay. No, it's fine.
But I think that's who you're probably picking up on, because I've got goosebumps. He's lost several of his family.
No worries.
Right. Minty was just doing a quick reading, trying for me for my twin, thought it was male, which I always think it is, but the name David. Can you come? So I've just shouted you through.
And it got shouted at me as well. He was very adamant that it was David, if that makes sense. It wasn't Dave or anything like that. It's David.
Yeah.
Yeah, David. Hiya.
Hi. I'm just gonna stop the recording. So if we end up sending this to people, then we'll
yeah, no, that's cool.
So thank you, everybody. And I'll stop the recording. So yeah, it's been a great night. So thank you.
Thank you very much.